Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Dad Talk Today. I hope you're doing well. Got a special episode lined up for you, an old friend that I'm sure you'll be glad to hear from. Really quick, guys, before we get started, I got to say it on every show. I got to, because I need you to do it. I want you to pull out the phone, like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're dinging the bell so you're getting the notifications from when we go live. There is super chats and memberships over on YouTube and stars and memberships on Facebook where you can support what we do here. There is also Cash App, Venmo, and Patreon. Dad Talk Today, no spaces, and we appreciate everything that you do. And don't forget, these are some pretty awesome cups, man. I got my coffee, I got my water, and support your Dad Talk Today gear. Support the ones that support you. All right, guys, today's episode is going to be one that I'm sure a lot of you have some experience in the petty things. It says petty things that moms do, but it's petty things that parents just do in general. Once you go into the family court, you're not there to pay compliment to that other person. It takes that conflict, makes it even worse, gets these people fighting. And what happens once they get out of the relationship? It seems to escalate. They'll fuss over the toothbrushes, the clothes. Don't take this over to their house. Don't do this. Don't do this. And it's the kid that gets caught in the middle and doesn't know what they're even allowed to do. And I got somebody here to talk about this with me. Mr. Garza, what's up, bro?
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Hey, dude, so you hear about it. Man, we got a lot of people in here saying good morning. Good morning, Father X. Good morning, Paul. We got Mr. Brian Adams in here. Give him a hand clap. I know he just got over his surgery. Glad to see that he's in here doing what he's doing. He's cheerleading for us down there in the comments. But, dude, the petty things that happen after these divorces and stuff happen, I'm sure you got a lot to say on this, Robert. What would you say that we're trying to get over here? What are some of the things that happen there? The sad part is there's so many of these things we'll never be able to name every one of them on the show, and we want to hear from you in the comments. But would you like to give them a little insight on that, Robert?
Yeah, I mean, we deal with this every day in the support group, and it's Dad Talk Today support group. You can come in there and ask questions, whatever. But mostly there's a lot of dads and moms that are going through, mostly dads, but going through this, like you said, it's mostly bringing stuff back and forth, and the clothes is horrible, right? So I remember even going through this. I mean, I went through this for like 13 years, whatever, but you would buy the children clothes and then allow them to take them back over to the mom's house, and then they would come back in some crazy clothes, especially if they know you only have 2 hours and you're going to church or whatever like that. Then it just ends up messing up the whole, then you have to run back to the store or go home and then go to church or whatever. And it just runs the whole visitation.
Yeah, dude. And it's like, where to even get started on this, and I don't want to bring too much personal stuff in it, but I did give a little story about it not long ago. I remember it was my daughter took interest in volleyball. And I guess she had brought a volleyball over from her mom's, and she lost it. And so when she was asking me if I could get her a volleyball, I was like, yeah, no problem. She's like, well, I have one, but I'm not allowed to bring it to your house. And I said, why not? She said, well, I had one and then it disappeared. And I said, let me ask you a question. Did I touch that volleyball? She said, no. Did Tina? No. Did any of your stepbrothers or sisters? No. I was like, so why aren't you allowed to do that? Well, because it gets lost at your house.
Yep.
Dude, I was out here cleaning my studio the other day, and right there in that corner was a volleyball. And I remember taking a picture. I was like, you know what this is? She was like, yes. And I was like, how did that end up in my studio? But it's little things like that. Like, you're not allowed to bring your toothbrush. You're not allowed to bring your backpack. And there's going to be some times where I think that there's a point to be made. But if it's your kid's stuff, what do you care if they're wearing their clothes over there? Now, one thing I have seen is it won't return. There's another petty thing. There might be merit behind this person saying, don't take that over there, because if it goes over there, I'm going to hold it back just so you have to buy more. It's insanity, guys.
Oh, there's so much stuff that they do. They'll show up late to the drop off. They'll complain. They won't feed them before they come over. Just crazy stuff. I'm sure we're going to go through a bunch of it, but it's just to cause conflict. There's no reason for it.
We are. What's going on, Jason Lynn Batson? We got a comment in here from Matthew Pagan. He said, I'm so glad I found this page, going through custody battles to get my son. Been over 7 months since I've held or seen my son. Matthew, we're glad to have you here. And just let me speak to you for a second. You are not alone. And one thing that you will notice if you tune into Dad Talk right now, we're talking about the petty things that moms do. Yesterday, we had a different conversation. There's so much that happens inside of these family law battles, and once people split up, and we're trying to touch on a little bit of all of it. The end goal here is to make sure that there is equality. Because right now, somebody usually has the majority, because that's what makes the system profit. But you are not alone. It's not a personal attack towards you. The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And those 7 months that you haven't held or seen your son, it was designed to do that, man. You got to pay. That's what I was talking about. Our society has been so brainwashed. Man, a dad has spent every dime he's got in order to be able to see his kids. How accepted is that narrative, Robert? We hear it all the time. Man, I'd give everything I got. Imagine that this society has been so brainwashed that they think the amount of money that they pay is how much they love their kids. That's got to be very good for those courts and those judges and attorneys, man. I mean, it's really got to make them feel warm and cozy inside.
Oh yeah, it funds their pension, that's for sure. Child support does, so
yeah. Father X here on YouTube said, my ex dropped off our son with medication I needed to give him. She tore off half the label from the medicine bottle to hide some info. I showed that pic to the judge. Crazy. Now, why in the world would you rip off the directions off of a medication bottle?
I'm just thinking, just in my head immediately came that he has to talk to her, right? Let's just say he wasn't talking to her. He just give me my kids and out. So if there was no directions, he would have to interact with her. There's some people that are that petty, and there's been some situations that stuff happens for that reason. I'm not saying that that's what her motive was behind it, but if it was that he wasn't speaking to her, this would make him speak to her to ask, okay, and then there's some interaction.
Absolutely, man. Harrison Spencer Jr. said, my side and child's mother side of the family wanted a DNA test. When I asked the mother for the test, she stated she'll change his name from mine to something else just for asking. Wow. If you ask for a DNA test, if you go there is going to be consequences. Dude, that's exactly why, as controversial as it's going to be, I believe DNA testing should be done at birth. If we just normalized it, it would be cheaper for everybody, and it just becomes a normal part of birth. And I want you to think, it's not just about protecting that father, it protects the kid. Could you imagine being a kid and growing up your whole life thinking that somebody was your biological father, only to find out you've been fugabooed? Your mom had fugabooed both of you.
I've never heard fugaboo.
I know that's from Carnell Smith. I'm stealing it. I actually like it. But somebody said, dude, it's good to see Brian Adams down here in the comments. There was a few people that wanted to know who he was. And, dude, he's getting loud in here. Brian is the kid that went through the hotel fire up in Michigan. And while his mom was making drugs. I don't want to talk too much about that story, but this gentleman has been through like 220 surgeries, guys. 220. He is OG Dad Talk. Okay. One of the very beginnings. So, and I know he just got over another surgery. So it's so good to see you here. And I'm going to tell you, if you want somebody to school you in Fortnite, I learned my lesson.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
He is. Miss Sabrina Hayde there on YouTube. She said, we got a cell phone and iPad for the grandkids. Judge said to send with them to have access to private FaceTime with their dad. She takes it up and won't even give it to him. So it was given an iPad in order to have that time. Now, look, I've had similar situations where like my child was in trouble and I didn't want them to have electronics. But if mom was wanting to talk to the kids, go sit at the kitchen table. I'll go in another room, get on there and FaceTime with your parent. You could at least protect that time that they've got. But this is one of those deals where they're just trying to rip it away and say they couldn't do it because they don't have it. Well, you're the one that took it away.
Yep. So you got to be careful too with those electronics because I'm just going to talk in hypotheticals here, but there's been situations where the parents have given them like these little watch phones that you see, right? It holds 3 or 4 numbers. They have open mic technology that it just opens a mic, to whatever's going on at your house. So just be careful and Google if you ever see one of your kids with one of those open mic watch phones or anything like that.
Oh, dude, loving these comments in here. Mr. Dwayne Ward, hit the like button, show the love, show the support, guys. Keep them coming in. Tell us about some of the petty things that you've been through. We're going to try to get through this. Harrison Spencer, he did a follow-up. He said, and the reason why mother's side of family wanted DNA tests because she had a child previously and didn't know or claimed not to know who the daughter's father is. So her family wanted transparency. So if I'm picking this up right, the mom's family was saying that she needed to get a DNA test. Is that what you're saying to me? That's a rare one. They're wanting transparency too.
Yeah. And Harrison, on this, you can actually go to Google and type in DNA testing kit, and they're pretty cheap. So when you have possession of the kid, or anybody has possession of the kid, if you're worried about it, you can just swab their mouth with one stick, throw it in a test tube, swab your mouth, throw it in a test tube, label them, send it off, and it'll come back. And at least at that point, you have like 99% chance of what's going on. And then you can take that to the court.
Yeah, man. This brings up there. I don't think there's a show that we do that I don't mention John Mast. But there was a video. I should have pulled it up and you guys could have seen it. However, if you go to John Mast's Facebook, it's still up there in his video section where he's on there with his kids saying, look, I got Christmas for you. I did send presents. I did do this, but they got sent back to me and you weren't even allowed to see it. But I had the Christmas for you babies. Yeah. And I want to see you open it. This was much later. How many of these guys have had those stories, Robert, where when you send the Christmas presents or the birthday presents, they just completely send them back because they don't want the kids to know that you are making any attempt to see them? That is actually very common.
Or the crazy part is they'll take it and they'll give it to them anyway. And it's not from you, it's from them, or it's from grandma or something like that. That's the sad part. Your dad didn't do anything, but then here you are, you got your presents anyway, but they're from somebody else took the recognition for it. So
absolutely. Miss Wanda Best there in Texas. She had said, my husband's ex's house was hit by the tornado at Christmas 2015. She called to say that they were not home, only to find 3 weeks later, their daughter was in the house alone when it hit. Ooh.
Wow. Man, I'm so sorry.
Trying to hide that information from you because it didn't look so good. That's
and the
crazy.
Sad part is she's going to have to spend thousands of dollars trying to get it to court to show that they were negligent, and it probably just falls on just deaf ears.
Yep. Absolutely, man. Jason Lynn Batson said, yeah, mine done that too. Bought the kids' cell phones so they can talk to me. Their mother took the phones and blocked my number.
Yeah.
I knew there was going to be no shortage of comments and stories on this. Robert, why do you think that those parents do these type of things?
If you're trying to alienate your child from the other parent, then the more contact they have with them, that's what fights parental alienation, just so you know. It's not it doesn't matter if you see them once a month and you have 8 hours with them. That doesn't fight parental alienation. It's the frequency of contact. So if you go 3 days, 4 days without seeing them, and then you can FaceTime them, even if it's only for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or you show up to their school and give them a gift or join them for lunch for 30 minutes. It's the frequency of visitation or the amount that you see them that fights parental alienation. So when you're handing your kids these phones, or mom's not wanting you to talk to them or whatever, that's why. Parental alienation really can't sit in if you're in constant contact with your child.
Absolutely, man. They've got a narrative to protect. They've got a story that they fed these kids in any time, any intent, whether it's a present, a telephone call, or anything. If I can block all of that, they are never being told the other side of the story. And unfortunately, the brainwashing is much more effective because that kid is sitting back saying, I wish they would have reached out for me. They weren't trying. Now, I go back to the Katie Haas story, guys. If you haven't watched that podcast, make sure to go back. Katie was an alienated child. She went 20 years thinking that her father didn't want her and that her mother told him all kinds of bad stuff. Well, he found her on Facebook years later and said, I've always wanted to be here, was crying, I love you. And all I could think is, what did this dad go through for that to happen? Was it one of those, they like to call these guys deadbeats. Okay. And I've had a few clips that's went out there talking about this. They like to call them deadbeats, but if they tried to go through the courts and the courts didn't work, now mom's got control. And every time they reach out and try to either see their kid, parent their kid, or do anything, mom completely blocks it. And it's like every time they try, they end up more and more disappointed to the point they say, I've got to pull back. But that's not a deadbeat. That was somebody that fought and met a dead end, Robert. We really need to redefine that word deadbeat, because that is a dead end. If the courts are protecting it and mom's getting away with it, what do you expect these guys to do? I'd much rather them just pull back and say, I'm going to try to keep myself sane up here and not end up being another one of the statistics that we hear about all the time.
Yeah. And if you love somebody going through this and you're with somebody, your significant other, and you're going through this custody battle, they're going through it with you. And, sometimes you may not realize what's going on because you're so caught up in the fight, whatever, but pull back a little bit, take some time to recognize that, they're in there with you. And, if you don't do that very often, then that relationship's probably not going to last. So you gotta pull back, and for yourself, you got to keep yourself sane for your kids.
Oh, yeah, man. Mr. Ricardo, he said, I've been through hell and back just trying to be a father. I'm still going through it. Ricardo, tell us a little bit about what's going on, man, if you can. But we would love to hear what's going on. Shadrach said, I appreciate what you're trying to do here. Coming over from Mr. Palmer's channel to me, sending fathers into the Rig family court meat grinder is not productive, and men are better off walking away. Shadrach, let me tell you something. I don't know. I have to agree. I absolutely. Now, the problem is going to be, Robert, you're going to have these guys that every so often say, hey, look, I thought you did. But how many hundreds of thousands of dollars and years did it take you to get that which you should have had the right for in the first place? How many allegations did you have to go through before they say, okay, we're not listening to him anymore? A lot of these guys are meeting that dead end. And if you're one of those that says, I've done everything I can and I can't fight there anymore, that doesn't mean you give up the fight altogether. That means you get in here and you continue representing your story and say, I want to see this system change. I want to see it change. Yeah. Unfortunately, different people in different circumstances, they're not going to be able to do. Look, Jeff Younger, $2 million, man. What good did it do him?
Yep.
What good did it do him? For many of these guys, that's a trap. And we've got that little possibility that it might be able to do a little good for you. But do you want to play poker when it's your kids at stake? Because that's what it seems like a lot of the times. But it seems like you got some different thoughts on that, man. Let me hear about it.
If you don't have the funds to do it, absolutely. If you don't have the mental capacity to do it, absolutely. If you're barely treading water as it is and you can't sustain yourself, and then you're about to have to spend thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars a month to attorneys and court evaluators and psych evals and home studies and everybody and the amicus attorneys and everybody else, then absolutely you have to be there for your kids. So if you're going to go broke doing it, wait till your savings are up, wait till you're in a good place and do a little bit at a time or whatever. The only thing that I recommend doing, if anything like that happens and you've ever had time to spend with your kids, is like, if you have a Facebook page, make it public. Post on there, look, I used to take you to hiking or camping or this or that. I wish I could still do it. One day your kids will look back and see that you were thinking about them, that you were talking about them, that you wanted a relationship with them. So if you can't have one, at least make a diary on Facebook or a journal that you wish that you could, and that, hey, it's their birthday, whatever. That way later they can look back. And I guarantee you, no matter what the narrative is, they're going to go look. So my advice is, do the journaling online where it's public. And if anything ever happens to you, it's still there for them to go back and look at it.
John Mast.
Yep.
Same thing. November 2020, guys, Thanksgiving. We're on there doing a show like I'm doing with Robert right now. And I said, man, you've been doing any journals? You've been doing any videos to let your kids know that you're thinking about them? And he said, yes. He said, I'm not doing them anymore because it got too hard on me. But I was leaving the journals there. And dude, when we found out that he was murdered, we had those journals to go back on. They've got those. They're online for you to read. But dude, you went through this with me. People have no idea what it takes to make a documentary. Okay. We lost almost a whole year of our life just trying to produce this documentary because we were doing what we could with what we had. Okay. And once we got down into the editing booth, it was about 3 months nonstop, 8 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the morning, every day on this program, just like we're doing right now, editing that down. But one of the feelings I will never forget, you're trying to help tell the story of somebody that's no longer here to tell it. So you're getting the bits and pieces of the puzzles that you do got. But if you go back and read those diaries from John, it was almost like he knew what was going to happen.
Yep.
It still just sends chills down my spine, man. It was like he was writing to his kids in the afterlife.
Yeah, we put that in one of the videos with him and his daughter. He was actually speaking over it and stuff. But wow,
dude, Mr. Dwayne Ward is paying you a compliment there, Robert.
Oh my gosh, thanks.
Hey, what about me, man? You don't like my beard? It's gonna be gone before too long. I just went through no shave November, December, and January. But yes, I agree. He's always getting compliments. Mr. Harrison Spencer again, he said, but look, I'm a 49ers fan and the mother is a Dallas fan. Our son was supposed to be Harrison Spencer the third, but she names him Dallas in spite. Whoo!
Ouch. 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 I'd take that DNA test pretty quick if I were you. I'd take him.
He said he did, and he found out that the kid was his. That was one of the comments I did see, so I wanted to clarify on that.
And Amanda said that her mother did that, took the presents from her dad and said that they were from her.
Yeah, man. It looks like some of this is going to be cut off because it's a little bit of a long comment. But Matthew Pognett said, because there is no costly agreement technically put in the stone, yet the mother of my child refuses to give me updates to let me call him. He just turned 1 in November. I was not allowed to call him to tell him happy birthday. Christmas came around and I was not allowed to call him. Yet again, the mother of my child keeping my son from me is the most pettiest thing I've ever seen and gone through, especially since for the first 7 months of his life, she didn't want anything to do with me or our son. We see it, man. We see it. And that's what hurts me so bad. When you hear about these fathers that are fighting in this system, and if they don't have custody, oh, he's a deadbeat. These are guys that are meeting dead ends. And at what point in time do we just keep telling them, go in there, you're going to find justice? There's no justice, Robert. There is no justice.
No.
The problem I have with the guys is, Why should any fit, willing, and able, we're talking about good dads here. So anybody that wants to talk about the deadbeat or whatever, get over. This isn't deadbeat talk today. This is dad talk. These are dads that are going in there and they're trying, they're giving everything they got to be in their kids' lives. And this is what results they are getting inside of that system. He should have never had to go to the family court in the first place. It's one of the biggest charades that I've ever seen. The fact that we got to go pay third parties to tell us that we can have rights to our kids. At what point do we give the government the right to say when, where, and how much it's going to cost to see our kids?
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
It's not fair at all. Like all the custody evaluations and all the professionals that get involved in this BS, it's just a money-making scheme, racketeering, and they're doing it legally. They're just taking your money. So, yeah, if I had to do it all over again, I think I would, well, yeah, I would just do things quite a bit different. Actually, I'm glad that there's programs like this, because I would go find one before I went into family court, and I think I would have been a lot more prepared, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, so sorry, Matthew, you're going through this, but it's been 7 months. I guarantee you, come in the support group, send me a private message, and let's talk about your case, and I'll see if I can help you out.
Yeah. Ashton Northern said, my ex expected me to pay child support and pay for all of their extracurriculars. When she has taken over half my check, and then she told my kids I took them out of their extracurriculars. It's like, if you don't pay more, it's always going to be your fault. But man, let's go back to what we was just talking about a few seconds ago. The family court system really promotes crap like this, Robert. And in many ways, I mean, this is wrong that your ex is doing that. She should be able to step out and say, this is wrong. I don't want no part of it. But at the same time, the system actually feeds this. Not only are we going to make you do child support, we're going to make you pay for half of everything. We're going to make you do this. You know, not wanting to get too into your personal story, but Robert, what's that like when you get requests for reimbursements every month?
So on your requests for reimbursements and stuff, you know, you're right. It's not fair. And if the court did that to you, if anything, they should have said pay half. Why she took the kids out of the extracurricular activities, I don't understand, but especially if you're paying for them. But it is a chance. If they put them in stuff after school, it is a chance for you to show up and spend time with them. They cannot keep you from those things. So if there's karate classes, basketball, anything like that, that's actually more time that you can go spend with them that's actually on the other parent's time, and vice versa. Now, where he didn't say what most people do is that they'll book their activities on your time, right? So if you have Thursday overnights, guess what? They're putting them in a karate class that's every Thursday evening, and then they're making you feel bad because you couldn't take them to the class, and then it's there, and then they'll go on your time to go see the kids, but they're booking those classes on your time. That's the messed up part.
Yeah. Mr. Brian Smith said, mine were brainwashed to actually record my house and everything inside my home, conversations, etc. Found out after the fact what was going on. So I'm guessing he's saying that the kids were instructed to record everything.
Yeah. And Brian, just so you know, if they brought third devices into your house and they were recording those without your knowledge, depending on what state you're in, that's actually against the law. So if they produce those, it's not an automatic thing. You actually have to make another file in criminal court for that. So family court's one thing, criminal court's another. A lot of people don't understand those two things. But what they will combine is if you get in trouble like a DWI or something, and then they'll bring that over into family court from criminal court. So anyway, there's a whole lot of things. If you want to know some of this stuff, come into the Dad Talk Today support group. So there's Dad Talk Today, and then there's Dad Talk Today support group. You can look for it on Facebook.
I think it's around 28,000 members last time I looked, man. All parents that are going through this that you can speak to. I just got to say this. Me and Robert are not attorneys. We're not experts. We're not giving you any legal advice here. We're just parents that have went through this, and these are our opinions. And when you get in there, you'll see a lot of other opinions. You're going to hear the success stories. You're going to hear some of the failures too. But we can learn from each other, guys. And I'm telling you, the thing that really just gets me passionate and fired up, dude, is knowing that once we get all our guys to the table, once everybody comes together and says, this is what's going on, we can end it. We can end it. And I think one of the biggest things that these men have been waiting on is for people to say what's on their mind. Because when you sit back and think about it, talking about the absurdity of the family courts in the first place, is it not true? For a father that's fit, willing, and able, why does he have to go in there in the first place? Why haven't we heard more people talking about those conversations? Because we're constantly on the defensive, trying to say, oh, that narrative doesn't fit me. That narrative doesn't fit me. To hell with that narrative, man. I want to see all of our guys get together and let's just smash that thing to pieces, dude, because it needs to go on somewhere. And it's stuff like this right here, Miss Mandalorian. She said, same with my dad. I was told he didn't want me. I found him as an adult and was surprised that wasn't true in the least. Dude, that really, how many kids right now are going without a father, fatherless children? And let me explain something too. We heard Dr. Brooks McKenzie talking about it, that every other weekend is almost the same as a fatherless child. Because what can you do every other week? You don't have enough time to build the structure and to build the bond that you need. So that's almost like having a fatherless child too. But could you imagine a kid growing up thinking, my dad doesn't want me? And that it was because another parent was feeling that in their head. I'm curious. Let me hear from you, Amanda. How many men came in that interim trying to replace that masculine role?
Yeah. Did she have any effects from not being around her dad? I mean, did she grow up and have issues like daddy issues or, issues in her relationship later, or didn't know how to treat a man because her dad wasn't around? Were there any issues that you found now as an adult looking back that you had, that would have not been there had your dad been around?
That's it, man. Father X there on YouTube said, Mom told our son that I was Satan, that I wanted him aborted, but he lives with me and told me. He got so mad at her for insulting me. That behavior can backfire on a parent. You know what, guys? There might be a lot of these things that you mouth off sometimes, and it might be true, especially in your head. But your child was not meant to bear the weight of their parents' problems. They did not create it. They were the consequence of you two getting together. And that could be a beautiful consequence. We love our kids. But at the same time, don't involve them in your problems. I tell you what really hurts me, and I understand how they get there with this, Robert, is there's so many of these guys that have went through these situations. And I've got to tell my kids what's happening. It could be a 7 or a 10-year-old. I've got to tell my kid. I got to let them know everything that's happening. And I understand you're being lied on. You're being insulted. That is what is called gaslighting, guys. Okay, they're eliciting that response. They want you to argue. They want to keep this bullcrap going. Your kid does not need to carry that weight around on their shoulders. They just don't. And you can protect their heart or you can pile it on.
And you want to protect their mind too. So think about it. If someone's saying that you're the boogeyman, this is just a quick explanation. So if they're saying that you're the boogeyman, right? And they come over and they're in fear of coming over to your house because you're the boogeyman. So if they come over, the best thing you can do is not say anything at all and and just act normal. So if they see you cooking, what would you like to eat? Can I get you anything? Blah, blah, blah. You want to play video games? Act normal. Do not feed into that narrative and do not even question that narrative, because if you start questioning them, they automatically get that fight or flight response. Yeah. And so you're constantly, if this person's telling them that, the best thing you can do is act normal, act like that doesn't even exist in your house. And I guarantee you will save their minds and their emotions. Now think about it. If you say, no, mom's the boogeyman, now they don't have a safe home to go to. And so even if they're in that fight or flight mode at your house, at least they can go home and not be in that mode. And if you say anything about their other house or the mom, then they're in that mode, both homes. It is not good for the children. You have to protect their hearts and protect their minds.
Absolutely. Shadrach on YouTube said only the lawyers and judges benefit by playing a rigged game. That's the thing, man. There is always going to be somebody that loses, the child. Okay. But there is always somebody that wins. It's the family courts. They win every single time. I love how Father X said this right here. He said, going to court is a terrible option. Walking away from your kids is a terrible option. Unfortunately, if you're a dad, a lot of the options that we have are not good options.
Pick your poison.
Pick your poison. Yeah. What
Would
we're doing here
or stab
is all I know to do, is to keep sounding that alarm, raising that awareness, because until it's done in a way that is going to make these people wake up, guys, I feel it's going to get worse. You know, as much as I say politicians don't care, they don't. There is legislation that is going to go in right now that is going to affect me, you, every father, every kid out there. And if we don't get proactive, we're on the defense. Yep. And you can sit there and say, like, I'm just not going to play. But if they get you signed up on the child support and the alimony and all that, now you're not even going to get to see your kid, but they're going to make sure that you pay. It's like you can say, I'm just going to walk away from it. I'm going to run away from it. No, they're going to make sure one way or another that you are going to pay. They're going to come find you. Okay. And that's just the way the courts operate. So the only thing I can tell you guys is we got to start changing the way that we do. Ricardo Cray said, false allegations, parental alienation, the works. My daughter's mother even threatened to have me killed. I never knew being a father would be this dangerous. You know, Ricardo, that's one of those things, dude. Like, we take that very seriously, because I've had the fathers on here that said that, and that is exactly what happened.
Yep. The John Mass Foundation is a big place to go to that we're hoping that will start fighting against the false allegations, the safe exchange centers, stuff like that. So there is change coming. It's coming slow, but there is change coming. I have a bill called Time Taken, Time Back. Whenever you go through these false allegations here in Texas, whenever you get your children back, you get the time that you lost back. And hopefully that takes the incentivization out of them making the allegation in the first place. But there are things coming. It just doesn't happen fast.
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's speak about that with the John Mass Foundation, the custody exchange murders, guys, the threatened to being killed, the false allegations. That's something that we're really wanting to get behind. But we need as many of you to get involved with that as possible. John Mass Foundation on Facebook, if you would like to contribute, johnmassfoundation.org. They're a 501c3, so all donations are tax deductible. And here's the thing, man, like we was talking about this the other day. When we're looking for research behind false allegations, where do you get it? When you're looking for research behind custody exchange murders, where do you get it? We're going to have to create it, guys. But then not only that, again, the hardest thing fighting in that arena is going to be the narrative. Because when we talk about false allegations, what are the allegations? What are they being accused of? They're being accused of one of the most deadly accusations that you could be accused of. And to tell people that these are false allegations is going to be hard. Because just like people go to Rush, you know, and defend your ex, when they hear that something's being done to a child, they don't hear anything else. Like, you need to go to jail. You need to do this. You're guilty. They don't even try to get the details. You are guilty. And undoing that narrative, undoing that stereotype to make people say, hold on, ask questions, find out what's going on here. We don't believe any of this should be going on with kids either. And I'll fight for those babies just as much as I'm talking about doing with these parents. However, we're looking at around 80% of restraining orders and allegations going unfounded. That's almost like 4 out of 5, guys. And we need to get some more accurate statistics on that. But from what I've heard, that is pretty similar. Anytime I talk to these attorneys, around 80% of these are going unfounded. Yeah. The majority is allegations. And there is no consequences for those allegations. Now, what happens when there is a child that's being messed with or being abused and nobody's listening and advocating for the child because of the allegations, because, you know, mom's not believable, because it really is becoming like the boy who cried wolf. It's happened so much that the believability is starting to go out the window. So there's two sides to this. The domestic violence industry, I believe, should be one of the biggest cheerleaders over here behind what we're doing, because the same people are taking away the voice from the real victims. But we know the domestic violence industry. I don't think they're really there to protect from domestic violence. They're 501c3s, lots of nonprofits, and they get a lot of money behind that narrative, guys, and to keep that narrative going. And I'll end up going down the rabbit hole. We're talking about petty things that moms do, not the organizations. So, Pasquale Catalano on Facebook said, my case goes to trial in March. Trial just to have the right to see my daughter. The one good thing I have is my daughter and I started counseling together. She is slowly starting to see the truth, and dude, I hope that keeps going that way. And I'm proud for you. But my biggest concern when I see something like that, Robert, is what happens when the counselor's not there to be the third party.
Right. Kids will ask questions, and when they're asking questions, do not go down the rabbit hole. But like if they ask, hey, mom's like let's just say your analogy with the volleyball or whatever, mom says that volleyballs disappear at your house or whatever, and be like, well, didn't you have the volleyball last time that you came over? Didn't you take it home? And let them answer their own question, right? So ask them another question with their question to let them answer their own thing. Now that has some good effects the way you do it, but it could have some bad effects if you don't do it right. So, but, kind of ask them a question about their question and let them answer it. Like, well, that's, have you ever seen, I don't know, mom says there's snakes at your house. Well, have you ever seen a snake at my house? No. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So just keep it short and light if you're going to end up answering any of their questions, because kids will ask.
They definitely will. Miss Deborah Bedoya said, or you learn the children are going through corporal punishment when they talk about us. My granddaughter's conversations, their new siblings report them to her. If you end up talking about that parent lets you know you do not talk about that here. And there's many ways that they will do that. In this household, that person doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a common one.
Or if you get a phone and let's just say they say, okay, here's your phone, or the dad gets them a phone and the court says you have access to them. They will get punished for calling you. And, I've had cases where the mother is reprimanding the kids for calling them. Why are you calling your dad so much? Blah, blah, blah. Make them feel guilty for it to where they don't want to do it. Now, what mothers don't understand is when they do that, they're going to go to school and use their friends' phones to call dad or whatever else, or use the school's phone. We've had that happen a ton of times. So if you're being blocked like that, be like, you can always call me, from school or from your friend's phone or something. Just kind of put the idea out there, and I guarantee you'll end up getting phone calls.
Yep. Ashton Northern said her first baby daddy hasn't paid a dime in child support, but she tells everyone I'm the deadbeat. Even to my kids, I have yet to badmouth her. It is frustrating. Dude, you're always going to be the deadbeat no matter what. But you know what? You know what they're doing it for. You can't control what they're doing, but you can control how you react. Yep. And for somebody like that, if you could prove how they're lying with that, they're going to find something else. They're constantly going to find something in your life to put you down. These are people that want to assassinate your character, dude. It's not about what you're doing right or wrong. It's just, I don't want any good qualities to be shown about this person at all. I don't want the kids to know about any of those good qualities. Nothing. Think of how fragile that type of person's got to be, Robert. That Christmas presents or some of this other stuff or just conversating about that other parent, they're that fragile to that narrative being challenged that they go into a frenzy.
Yeah. Just the opposite, right? Yeah. Yeah. So when your kid comes to you and says, hey, dad, mom says you didn't pay child support, you can be like, honey, I always pay all of my bills, all of them, and just kind of leave it alone. You don't want to address it directly, but indirectly, right? Just be like, honey, I always take care of all of my bills. I am never late with any of my bills. And just move on, change the subject. But, don't dismiss it. Just kind of touch on it and go.
Yeah, man, it looks like we got a success story in here. I remember reading some comments from this man, Mr. Ricardo Rampone. He said, thank you, Mr. Robert, for everything. You have helped me to go through all this. You too, Mr. Eric. Keep it up. This is one of the stories from the support group, isn't it?
It is. Ricardo's case is pretty well documented, and that's really good. So he went to pick up his children like, I don't know, 12, 15 times. Every time we told him to call the cops, get a report. Every time he got a report and they said, oh, it's a civil issue. We finally got a policeman that this policeman took it upon himself to actually write the judge and say, look, this woman is violating, in Texas, it would be 25.03. In his state, it's something else, but it's interference with child custody. This cop took it on himself, took it to the DA, had the mom or had the DA file to arrest the mom. They did, got the warrant and everything. But then because of who mom was, ended up getting the warrant quashed. And so a police officer took it upon himself to even write the judge, talk to the attorneys, the ad litems, everybody, and say, this is not right. You are not following the law here. Like, what you're doing to this man is unethical, blah, blah, blah. Like, he has taken it upon himself to get behind Ricardo, and Ricardo is going to go to court pretty soon. And now Ricardo is representing himself because the attorneys that he's hired, he's paid tens of thousands of dollars, and they're not getting anything done. I can almost guarantee he's going to get something done pro se.
Ricardo, man, good to hear that, this community and some of the stuff we're doing is helping. You know what, guys, sometimes just being in here, knowing that you're not alone and being able to talk again, the Dad Talk Today support group, it's 100% free. All you got to do is request to join and talk in there about everything. I've said numerous times, Robert, we've got several admins in there because we don't let just any post go in there. Right. Something about this community, dude. Like, and I know we got memes and stuff going on Dad Talk, but a lot of these support groups, it's memes and it's all this different stuff. People trying to promote their videos or whatever. We keep that 100% about support. And that's a closed group where you can go and talk to other parents. Get in there, utilize that. That is a great place. If you feel like I just need to get something off of my chest, go in there and do it. Because let me tell you, men aren't afraid. And I'm going to say it. I say this every show. Men aren't afraid to express their emotions. They're afraid of their emotions being used against them. So what happens is they bottle all that in and just go throughout their day because they don't trust anybody. And let's be honest, with the system the way it is, with a lot of these relationships going the way it is, they have good reason to feel that way. But amongst your brothers, people that are going through this, dude, it can really be a relief to say, this is what's going on. Every day that I come on here, it can be a little scary sometimes as I'm like, I'm going to give some personal details about myself. And I don't know how it's going to be taken. But then you see the person, that's me. That's me. It lets you know that you're not alone. That's one thing that the system does. It tries to isolate you, make you feel like you don't matter. But then when you get in here and you talk to your brothers, you realize I'm just another number in this system, man. And it goes deep, guys. It is destroying a lot of people's lives. It is destroying families. They profit off the destruction of families. That's just the way it goes. We got another Ricardo in here. He was commenting a little bit earlier. He said, I'm off work today. I will watch the documentary today and share in the video. Talk about I Stand With John, Robert, and why that is so important. We made that video not to put in too many statistics, not to do anything like that. I wanted that to be a story that the people on the outside, when they tune in, they really get a glimpse of everything that can go down in this system. And I think it covers just about everything that can happen.
Yeah, it sure does. So it's only an hour long. If you want your families to know what you're going through, or even a little bit, even if there's a little bit of false allegations or even divorce, or even what could happen if this process gets out of hand, have them watch I Stand With John. It's on YouTube. It's totally free. I just put it in the comments. You can just go in there and click on it. It's only an hour long, but it takes you through the whole story of John Mast, and it starts with false allegations. We were talking about this the other day. False allegations is the root of all of this drama that you're going through in family court or anything else. If there wasn't for that and it was a level playing field, perjury is a state jail felony, but they don't, in the last 15 years, nobody's really followed it or been prosecuted for it in family court. Criminal court's different. Family court is totally different than criminal court. If they would just follow that law, none of this stuff would be happening, but they know that. and they want the conflict. If they didn't want the conflict, they would 100% be doing this every time that there's someone that perjures themselves. So, but anyway, sorry, I got off on a tangent. But I Stand with John. It's an amazing documentary. Like Eric said,
we made it for free, guys.
Yeah.
We didn't do it for free. It cost us money to get it out there, and we sacrificed a lot of time, but we put it up there. Yeah. It's not behind a paywall because we just want you to share it out.
Yeah, we knew this was so important to get the information out there. And once you know this, it will also help you know that you're not alone in this, and this is just a system that you're in. It's just a thing that you're going to go through. Get out whenever you want. Start, stop, pause. It's a game. And as long as you know that, then you can look at this differently, and you won't take it so personal. It is not you personal. It feels that way. It's going to feel that way. But until you watch this and see that it's just something that is just that you're going to go through, kind of like school, it's not personal, whatever. It's just a system that they built that you're going to have to go through. And, we put some pitfalls in there to show, what could happen and what does happen. But then again, there's also statistics in there knowing that, you're not alone in this.
Absolutely. Mr. Rob Ramos said, taking the money because most fathers are not educated in this field. It's obvious that fathers haven't been given a shit for many of years. That's why we are able to sneak in and implement a system in which breaks down fathers financially. But now that fathers are getting their heads out of their house, we're starting to realize what happened. Let me tell you really quick, and I do this respectfully, why I disagree. I can't tell you how many fathers that show up here and say, where were you 20 years ago? You got to think back then, if you was a dad and you didn't have social media, hell, this is back before cell phones, and you had the cords on, right? And you had to sit there, or you had the little rotary phone. This has been going on for a long time. They didn't have the means that we do to organize, but for so long they were isolated and felt like there was no resources, that you didn't see that real big movement just blowing up, man. Yeah. We've got that. We can do what we're doing here right now. And every day I can tell you guys, it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I'm watching the numbers, and that's what we need. I want you to make sure anybody that's going through this, that you get them in here, get them a part of the conversation, because your voice matters, your participation matters. And this is how we can end it. We do have the tools that are necessary to expose this system now. It's just, it's trying to speak hope and life into these guys that have had everything taken away from them. And that can be really hard sometimes. I want you guys to think, when you're in the thick of it and you're paying that money, you're having your kids taken away from you. You're sitting in that house that used to be filled with your family. Now it's just you sitting there. You don't have your kids. You don't have your spouse or anything. You don't have no money to go anywhere. And it's just that silence and that loneliness. It is very hard for that person to say, I have hope and I want to fight. That's who we're trying to speak life into right now, man. You have a reason to fight, and every single one of you matter. Turn that pain into damn purpose, man. I want you to get that purpose out there. And dude, if you would have went to me 3-4 years ago, Robert, I was that guy.
Yeah.
I was that guy that just thought, it does me no good. Nobody knows what I'm going through. I just can't do it. Because I went to the attorneys. I went. I heard the money that they wanted. And it's ridiculous, man. They wanted more money than I had just to get started. They still do. I went to one not long ago. I told you about it. The money that they wanted is ridiculous, man. And here I am. I've raised kids. What else do you need to know? I'm a good dad.
Yep.
Why you want me to pay involvement? You want me to pay for something that should be my right?
Yeah.
No, dude. We've got to, like I said with Jesus, man, flip those tables over. We got to start flipping them over and saying, no more. You are not going to use our kids. They're making our kids a product. That's not that is not their right to do so. The government didn't bring those kids into the world. We did.
You have to have a product to sell.
You have to have the product to sell. And that's what they've done. They've got this industry, because it's not that you guys are deadbeats. That's just the narrative that keeps you going in there. They need fathers more than anybody, because without you, that system doesn't exist. Without you, that $60 billion doesn't show up. We
Correct.
got to use fathers. We got to use the deadbeat and keep them coming in here. Look how deadly that narrative has gotten. Could you imagine if we turn that narrative around? What's going to end up happening?
Yeah.
Start speaking up, saying the things that are on your mind, guys. And if you hear us saying something that you like, don't just sit there. I want you to like it on social media. I want you to share it. I want you to subscribe. Let us know that what we're saying matters, because that's all we're asking you to do. Those are ways that you can help this podcast. And it is the end all be all answer. Once we get everybody to show up, watch what can happen. Robert, we've been all the way up to the president, man.
Yep.
But we were standing there alone. Standing there alone. And I'm not talking about the current one. Anyway, we're not even getting into that because I'm not trying to make a political discussion out of it. But I'm just saying, could you imagine if we would have showed up and said, I'm the voice for millions over here?
Yep.
We'll get change. So we know that we can get to that place again. But first, we got to take a step back and do what we're doing now and get you guys to show up. Once we can get that, we can go to the next step. Yeah.
Correct. You know, it's amazing that all these dads are fighting for their kids, because if you think about it, temporary orders, look at the game that they've set up. They give you temporary orders. That means you have to pay child support. You're already behind the 8 ball. You don't have 50-50 custody. And then now you're going to have to pay $1,000 a month or whatever it is. Then you're going to have to pay for an attorney, which is another, I don't know, $5,000 retainer or something like that. You're already starting from way below. So you dads that have been in this game for a while and are fighting and going to work every day just to get your kids or to your kids or custody of your kids, I applaud you. Like this is I mean, you're starting out way behind. And so, and it's made to be that way. So if you actually get to the finish line, kudos to you.
Yep. Shadrach back on YouTube said, the moment the child is entered into the child support system, they are now state property and the state's responsibility. I pay my child support conscious clear. The state is the father by default. Wow, dude, the state is the father by default. And that's crazy, dude, because in many ways, this guy's right. You know, we talk about Section 8 and the incentives in there. We'll give you everything you need, but you can't have the dad in the home. We want to be daddy. Big daddy government. We want to replace that, because what does that do? That makes you vote for me. That makes you think that I am the answer. No, they're not. No, they're not. The last thing on the face of this earth, dude, is that you're going to see is the government there to help you in any way. That's not what they're there for, because we have allowed these political gangs, and that's what I call them, that's got these colors beside their name and these letters, and make people think if I'm on this side, they represent me. They do not represent you guys. They do not represent you. We need to abolish these political parties. We do. And vote on people because you believe in them. And I think right now is the time that we could really get that over there. Because right now, even though so many people are brainwashed by thinking that those parties care about them, if you can get that message out, I do believe, Robert, it's got to make people sit back and think, they're right. We are getting screwed. We go through the same thing every 2 and 4 years, over and over and over and over again. Anyway, see how quick it is for me to get off on a tangent.
All right. Things that, what was it about? Things that,
got some coming.
We forgot the calls. We have phone calls.
Yes. I'm trying to get through the comments first.
Oh, okay.
And we got everybody here. Thank you for being here. Thank you. We're going to keep it going, guys. Noah Brackett said, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. This is a little humor for the day. Go for the less attractive women. They are not as crazy as the hot ones. Think of it this way. Hotter equals crazy. Less attractive equals not so crazy.
Google the, what is it called? The hotness to craziness scale on YouTube and watch that video. It's hilarious.
Dude, but there's some truth to it.
I'm gonna put it in the comments here.
There's definitely some truth to it, man.
Yeah.
Father X said, petty when mom has kids on alternate weekends, but he has to study for a big test. I give her that heads up. Mom says, no, don't want to do that on my time. Ashton said she cut off all communication with me, and I find out things through my oldest daughter mostly. every so often I will receive an email from her talking about my daughters. Dude, that's something we haven't even mentioned inside of this podcast today. How many of these relationships, when they start going south, that the kids get used as the messengers?
Yep.
You know? Ibeb Zilo said fathers are just as important. They need to be in their children's lives. Absolutely, guys. I tell you, we're going to get through some more of these comments. I do have a few voicemails, so we're going to dip into those real quick. Watch, because I don't keep the phone lines open all day. And look, guys, there is no shortage of people that are trying to use that phone line saying, hey, get in touch with me here. That's not what that's for. That's for the voicemails. And that's for you to get out that time, because we're trying to give as many people a voice as we possibly can. So please respect that, because every time that you take away something from that, you're taking away time that we are trying to put towards our guys. And if, like I said, you get in the comments, we've been reading your comments all morning. If you leave a voicemail, we try to get to the voicemail. So just use that, because that's a limited time and it helps us get to more people. If there is times like we had that voicemail yesterday from Australia that dad's going through, I reached back out to him and said, get back in touch with me right now, because that story was horrendous, man. So we do have those every so often that we reach back out, but right now we're opening up the platform to everybody. And guys, one father being lost is too many. All of you are important. All of you. You might have different circumstances. Some of them might be more horrific, but all of you are important and you all need a voice. And this is your platform. And we're trying to create it there for everybody. So please be mindful of those resources. We're not this big, well-funded oiled machine with people sitting back and operators and stuff. We're trying to do what we can. Okay. And so I got these voicemails here. Be watching out when we have these topics. I'll open up the phone lines for like 30 minutes and then we shut it down. And we're going to continue doing that. 762-441-0281. Here's the first caller.
Hey, Eric and everyone else at Dad Talk, Dwayne, Robert, thank you guys for everything you do. This is Jason from up in Wisconsin. And I heard the topic was on pettiness. And I just wanted to say, oh my gosh, since the divorce, every little thing is petty. But rather than talk about the petty things she's done, I wanted to say something that kind of drives me crazy through this divorce process is I have found myself, and I'm sorry to say, I've done stupid, petty things too. Maybe not as much as my son's mom, but regardless, it's horrible because you're absolutely right. The divorce situation makes parents fight, and I don't like the temptations and struggles that I have to deal with. Now, granted, I don't do petty things a lot, but during the divorce, I did do some things back, and that's not me. And I just try to get back to myself and, put my kids ahead of everything else. And then the second point I wanted to make is how my ex will characterize things I do for my son's benefit as petty. As an example, there are sports uniforms for my sons. I signed him up for sports here in his hometown, and I don't share them with my ex. And the reason for that is because she steals clothing from me. She also has never taken him to any sports events up here. And I mean never. And that's being used against me to say Jason's being petty. I was like, no, he needs his uniforms. She doesn't take him, and she steals clothes. I'm trying to make sure he plays his sports with his clothing. And so I offered, let's write a stipulation about it. Nope. Jason's just a horrible person. And it's so horrible to be going through that when I'm just trying to make sure my kid can play sports well. So those are 2 points I just want to bring up. I hate that I went down into that, and also things I'm doing is being mischaracterized. Hope some guys can relate. So, all right, thanks you guys for all you do. Adios.
Jason,
Wow.
I just want to say how much I appreciate you for being vulnerable and talking about that. Because here's the thing, guys, we don't want to get into victim mentality. We want to get into victor mentality. We want to get over this. And there is going to be times that we can contribute to it too. Robert, I'm sure there's been many times in the heat of that battle that you go to do something petty back because you're so tired of it being done to you. Like, you want to see how it feels? You want to see how it feels? I look back at it and like some of the emails that I had early on when the gaslighting and stuff was going on, I just go right back and forth with them. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know what was going on. I had to learn to disengage. and it felt like nothing I did mattered. But in the beginning, you try all this and you don't realize until you've done it all that nothing you do matters. So the fact that you could mention some of that you were going through, man, I really appreciate that. At the same time, what was it he was saying, that she tries to keep the kids extracurricular closed?
I think basically he was saying that she was using it against him, whether if he gave her the clothes, she would keep them and not show up with them, or if he wouldn't give them to her, then he was keeping them from her. So he couldn't win either way. But I remember when he was saying that story, a petty thing that I did, which was put temporary tattoos on my kids. They loved them, loved them, loved them. But the mom hated them, anything on their skin. But the kids loved them. So we used to, what we ended up doing was I would put since they loved them so much and that was our thing, and I think maybe that's why mom didn't like it so much, I would put it on the bottom of their foot. So they know that it's there. They can always look at it, right? So that's kind of a thing that y'all can kind of do. So we kept them off their arms now, but if we put them on their arms, that was the petty thing, right? So we found a way to do it without having, so the kid still liked it and it's our thing, but mom wouldn't know, as we would put the tattoo on the bottom of their feet. But I'm sure parents, there's things that they knew what each other's buttons were, and you kind of do things, but like I said, it's all about the kids. So keep it, find something kind of like that, put it at the bottom of their foot, and their mom never sees it. So.
Yeah, that's it, man. Guys, keep them coming in. 762-441-0281. Let's get to the next call.
Hi, my name's John. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. I moved here to be with my sons when their mom took them here. So anyways, last weekend I had visitation with them, and we had a great weekend. They met friends within the neighborhood, and my house became the Kool-Aid house for the weekend with the bikes out in the front yard and all that. So my sons had a great weekend, and one of their friends asked to spend the night. Now my sons are, one is 7 and one is going to be 5 here pretty soon. Their friend was 9 years old, and she was a young girl, and they were playing as friends, and she wanted to spend the night. And her mom came over, and her mom kind of hung out and was checking the place out, checking me out, and making sure her daughter would be safe, and her mom gave it a thumbs up. So her friend spent the night. I supervised them. I was always in the room, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing untoward happened there. So, couldn't drop my 2 sons off with their mom, and she calls. I'm taking them to school Monday morning. She's on speakerphone, and she asks, how was their weekend? And they weren't very talkative. They usually aren't very talkative to her on speakerphone when they're with me. So I gave her a quick rundown. Said, hey, look, the boys had a great weekend. They made lots of friends. They had a friend spend the night. And that's when she hit the roof. And it wasn't about they had a friend spend the night. It was that they had an awesome weekend. And it really just got under her skin. But she made an issue out of the friend, and that the friend was a girl. And she did it in front of my sons and was very upset over the speaker. I kept saying, can we do this in private? Can you talk in private, et cetera, et cetera? She didn't want to hear it. To me, the closing was the best line that she said. She goes, what kind of mother would trust their daughter to spend the night in a single man's house? And that seemed like such a loaded thing to say to me. But anyways, that's my story.
Oh, dude. What kind of mom would trust those? And coming from a mom that laid down with you and had a child with you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, dude. Coming from a mom that opened the doors and said, let's have kids. What kind of mom? Look in the mirror.
That's right.
Anyway.
So on that, oh my God, yeah. So one of the biggest ways that you fight these false allegations and stuff, or when you even start into court, is that if you've had kids with them and you've been in the house for 3 or 4 years or whatever, is that the biggest thing you can keep track of, and you tell your attorney, is that, look, there was no CPS involvement before the divorce. There was no police involvement before the divorce. Now, as of filing for the divorce, now you're this pedophile, you're this horrible person, woman beater, blah, blah, blah. No. if you are that person, you're always going to be that person. So if there's no police involvement, CPS involvement before, then that's a big way to fight it. So
absolutely.
that narrative.
We got one more voicemail, and then we're going to get back to these comments. Keep them coming. 762-441-0281. I've got a couple of different shows that you need to know about coming up. We actually have one with NBA star Cuttino Mobley. I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you're into NBA, he is wanting to come on and talk about this, and I am looking forward to talking to Mr. Cuttino. We've been going back and forth in many of the conversations, but there's also another one. You know about the Justin Goolsby case where he got killed at the custody exchange when he went to show up. That case went viral on TikTok. There is a couple of other ladies that went viral on TikTok because of their cases, and they all met each other. There's another one, her husband went through everything he could in family court, kept hitting the dead end like we talk about, and he ended up taking his life. And these ladies want to come on here and talk about what it's like being the wife or the partner in a relationship where the person they're in the relationship with is having to fight with one of these type of exes. And I think that's going to be really good because these are the stepmoms that can bring that element in there. And I'm telling you, dude, people say we just get in here and women bash. Dude, a lot of these stepmoms that get in here and put up with these cases, I can't praise them enough. I can't. And there's some good ones out there. And so we're going to have all three of them on there talking about that. So a lot of good shows that are coming up. And I want to make sure you see it. Keep the voicemails coming. 762-441-0281.
Hi, this is Dwayne Ward, first-time listener, first-time caller. This is a great show. Wanted to actually offer the pettiest thing I've ever done. So I noticed the kids were being returned home to me in horrible clothing. The pants were too small, or they were made for a XXX person or something like that. So I went out and bought like 10 pairs of pants for the boys to make sure that they were at least in good clothes when they were at both houses, and of course for school and everything. We had a 2-2-3 wrap plan. It was a 50-50 plan. Actually, I'm also in Fort Worth, Texas. So we had the exchanges again. They were school exchanges. So after about a month, I noticed that the boys were coming back in bad clothes again. Went ahead and did the math in my head, and I realized that she was actually keeping the good clothes and then making sure that they would return back to me in bad clothes. And then later I find out that she would actually sell the jeans back to the store that they were bought from, and then keeping the money. Later I went ahead and put in you need to return the clothes that they go to school in, and that seemed to work out. But that was actually, I guess, one of the pettiest things that I've ever done. I guess a little whatever pettiness, whatever you want to call that. But great show. I also wanted to call out, you have your co-host on every once in a while. He's a great guy. You need to have him on more. Talk to y'all later.
Dude, that voice sounded very familiar. I'm not too sure who that was, but dude, he triggered me. He triggered me. He was talking about the petty things, and like I said, up until like a couple of months ago, I kept a lot of my personal stuff out of there. But just to show you some of the bull crap that I went through, I'll never forget. Daughter was like 6 months old. I get this text, Robert, saying the baby needs long sleeve shirts, needs diapers. And I was already paying child support that was not court ordered. Okay. I went out and spent like $300 at Target on these, thinking I'm going to provide the child with their needs. I became the biggest piece of crap father out there because I didn't just give the money. The diapers was giving the baby a chemical reaction. It was Pampers. Okay. And that they were the mom and they were the ones that should have picked out the clothes. So here I go and fulfill what I was being told that the child needs. And it comes back on me as I'm a piece of crap. And, the thing is, I've seen that, he doesn't pay for the kids. He doesn't do this. He doesn't ask about his daughter. And then what they do? They use social media to try to get people on their side with these petty things. And unfortunately, a lot of people will side with these people not knowing what the actual story is.
Yep.
And then this just continues to escalate. But this is what's going behind the scenes with a lot of people. I made this comment yesterday. This is one of the pettiest things that you could ever see. How many of these dads are actually out there trying to see their kids? Hey, can I come see my kids? Can I get the kids for the weekend? They say no. But on social media, he never asks about the kids. Dude, that is a common one. How many of you guys have seen that?
Yeah.
They say that you're not trying, but every time you try, you get met with opposition. You get met with a dead end. But on social media, I'm such a poor victim. And this is what he's doing. They've got a narrative, a smear campaign to put out there. Again, remember, assassinating your character.
Yep.
They just are. And again, how many of these guys end up going and getting that which they are told that is needed, and then it's used against them?
In the support group, we have a lot of people that, tell us their problems a lot. And some of the petty things that moms do that I just remembered, you talking about it, is that moms will, they're supposed to have a phone call at a certain time. So the mom will dial the number and hang up and say they tried calling, but you didn't answer. Huge petty thing, huge petty thing. Another thing, if the child is a girl, they get a diaper rash or something like that. They're as a, young age or whatever, they'll try to say that, it happened at your house and you weren't keeping them clean. And then there's just a whole slew of things that they try to turn the narrative to. So I'm sorry, all you dads are going through this and some of you moms, but it seems like, there's two sides to every coin, and no matter what side it lands on, they're going to scream the other one. So.
But let's be honest, if you're one of these guys, you're seeing all that bull crap being said about you. They're saying it to people that a lot of times you was in the same circles, you knew the same people, and you're watching them put that smear on there. What are most guys going to want to do, Robert?
Shut up, not do anything, not say anything.
No. I'm not saying what they should do. What emotions is going to come over, and most of the time, what are they going to want to do?
Yeah. Go over there and they're going to end up with a protective order, restraining order against them, or violating one, or go on social media and start slamming them. And then it becomes a mudslinging contest.
And then you look mad. You look like this person that they
do
wanted
exactly
you to be.
you.
That's what they're doing. They need an example of this
Monster.
mad guy on the screen
Yep.
that they can use to say, see, I told you, he's so scary. He's so scary. Bull crap, man. I had a snapshot come in while I was on here. This was one right here. Can you tell Layla to call? Hey, can you tell Layla to call me? So we look Wednesday, Saturday. Hey, could I see her on Saturdays? You see her twice a month on Saturdays already. Dude, constantly saying, can I see my child? Can I see my child? And then what ends up happening? He's not even asking to see his kid. If he really wanted to be a dad, he would be here and he would be seeing them more. They don't have the opportunity to. It really is sick and twisted, man. And this is the problem with this system that gives somebody that type of power, that every other weekend. And if you want anything else to do with your kid, most of the time, these guys are going to want something to do with their kids. But if you want something to do with them, you got to go through me.
Yeah. And that's the thing that you're going to have to be careful of, because if you try texting your ex knowing that you already have temporary orders or anything like that, then they can say that you're harassing them. You're going to get your time taken away. Do not do that. I know you want to see your kid or whatever, but if you ask once, fine, a month or something like that. But if you know she's going to say no and you're doing it just to get a history there of that, knowing she's going to say no, she can also turn that into harassment, and then you're going to get your time taken away. So please be careful when you do that.
Well, so here goes another comment from Mr. Michael Preserve there on YouTube. I thank you for bringing this up, because this is quite common. My ex had everyone around her do the dirty work, bad mouthing, so she can appear clean. To anybody that's on the outside watching this program right now, he's a conspiracy theorist. He's got a tinfoil hat, all that. We've been talking about John Mass. We've been talking about Justin Goolsby today. Those were ex-father-in-laws that came and killed these guys. The parent that I'm supposed to be talking to coming up here soon, her son just got killed at a custody exchange. It was a boyfriend, Tyrone Darling. When we was there in Arlington, Texas, it was a boyfriend/girlfriend that got in there and started doing that. Can they get other people to do their dirty work? You damn right they can. The majority of these custody exchange murders, when these fathers are getting killed, it's not the mom that's doing it. She has convinced somebody that they are bad with these false allegations. Blue pill guys go in there and rush. What do we call them, guys? What do we call them? Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day. They go to defend her honor. They go to take up for her, and they end up doing the dirty work, and then they end up in jail for the rest of their life for doing something. It's got to make them feel like an idiot sitting back. I just wasted my whole life because I wanted to defend a narrative that I didn't even have any proof on.
They had one side of the story. Yep.
It's crazy, man. I'm so sorry that you're going through that, but I do appreciate you for bringing that up, because a lot of times they recruit people, right?
And if anyone's going through this, if you want to explain it to the court or your attorney, just say they're doing these allegations or this harassment by proxy. So as soon as you say it's by proxy, they understand where it's coming from. So if you get a false allegation that the mom didn't say it, but someone else is saying it for the mom, just say she's doing it by proxy. They'll understand what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Harrison, I appreciate this. He said, this is why if I am dating a single mother, I try to stay out of such matters, and the mother will not convince me to hate or threaten the child's father unless it's obvious. Dude, they shouldn't be trying to get you to do that anyway. And guys, I'm guilty of this, right? Because I didn't have anybody that I could go and talk to. If you get with them, oh, he was so abusive. He did this, he did this, he did this, he did this. You are ready to base that type of hate on somebody that you've never even had a conversation with? You're that quick to rush. Remember when he said that the hotter ones are the crazy ones? You want to believe she's all about you, and I'll defend you, baby. I'll defend you against this evil. Man, people watch too many cartoons and superhero movies. If you want to do what's right, you need to get in there and do your homework. Start asking questions, guys. That's it. I get a couple of them, Robert. When we show up on the page or I make a comment, they try to bring up the deadbeat dad or my baby daddy don't do this. He don't do this. He don't do this. And I don't just sit there and, well, I'm sorry, that's your baby daddy. That's not who we are. I start asking questions. Was he always like that? Did he try? Did you block contact when he went to see his kids? Does he have to go through you to see his kids? How are you protecting the contact? What are you doing in order to be able to encourage it rather than just texting him and putting everything off on him? I ask questions.
Yeah.
And they usually blow up at me. And I'm like, you just told me everything I need to know. Because all I did was ask you a question. I wasn't mean to you. I didn't make no assumptions, but I asked questions because I wanted further clarification. Guys, that's how we fight the narrative. When these people come in here and start talking about the deadbeat, they start talking down on you. Don't get mad. Ask questions. Ask questions and just request answers. You know what? If there's somebody that actually went through that, we sympathize with you. We're here because there are deadbeat moms. There are deadbeat dads. They're out there. Mm-hmm. But if we started asking some questions, we might actually start finding out some answers. And it's usually not the ones that they're going to type to you on social media. Let's be honest.
Yep. 100%.
Mike Whitney. There's our buddy. He said, family courts are not even fit for purpose. We have existing criminal courts with more due process. If something rises to the level of state intervention into our families and sacred, inalienable parental rights. That's one thing I hear. We have a completely different set of rights inside of the criminal courts versus what we're seeing in the family courts. Why is that?
They feel like they're, so you have rights to your children that are inalienable rights, that you have the right to be a parent. They can't take that right away, but in family court they do. And that's what they're talking about is that, you have these inalienable rights. Why should you be giving them up in family court?
Dude, Todd Ashley, I love this. He says, the game is rigged. And if you were caught cheating at the games of the past, the cheater's well-being was at risk. In this game, the one playing the game by the rules gets called out for being the problem. It's rigged and it's so true. If I'm a man and I'm going through all these allegations and I show any bit of emotions, those emotions will be used against me. And that's why we tell you guys to go into it calm. One thing you need to think about, if we're actually going to fight this culture war that we're going through, I want you to think, if I say this, this is how it's going to be received. Make sure you're taking the arguments out of there, because there's always going to be those arguments on why you are doing something wrong. But again, yes, you go into the family courts, you do everything right, you keep your emotions at bay, it will be used against you. If you don't, it will be used against you. In many ways, I say that the quote that reminds me of what these fathers are fighting more than anything, Robert, is you are damned if you do
And
damned if you don't.
Yep.
Yep. Mr. Fitzpatrick, I'm still trigger thinking and not understanding my dad saying, I just want to see my kids. I only understand it in recent years. My mom instilled fear in him. He was all alone. That is a very powerful statement there, Tom. I wonder how many of these dads, when they grow up, they end up getting in a family, go through a divorce, and they're having these challenges with seeing their kids, and then they're looking back and saying, I watched my dad go through this. Was all that time that I went in there, I'm seeing all these similar elements. Did my dad go through what I'm going through? And it's only now that I see what he actually went through.
Yep.
And now you go and ask those questions and stuff, and you realize all that time was lost hating somebody that might have been the best person in your life if he had a chance. That's sad, brother.
And then if he's gone, then there's nothing you can do about it. You couldn't ever get that relationship back or even have your questions answered.
Yep.
But if they're thinking about it, I think they had their questions answered by themselves, because they're looking back and reflecting like, whoa, like my mom could have been this person. You marry your mom.
So Deborah Bedoya, she said, it just seems like the only way to end this by a revolution. I'm not saying violence, but stop paying child support and refusing to be a party to this corruption. I understand your sentiment with that, but I can't tell these guys to stop paying, because if they do, they're going to lose their license and they're going to end up in jail. What good is that going to do us? Okay. Look, Cash Jackson was a very boisterous advocate too. What good is him sitting in jail right now doing us? Nothing. I don't mean anything bad by this, Cash. We needed you here. We needed you here. And some of that stuff that went down, guys, they will unfortunately come after you.
Yeah.
We've got to stand together as a block and make sure that we're getting our voices out there, because if all of our guys end up going to jail, Robert, it does us no good, man.
Yeah. Does you no good at all. In fact, it's better. And I even always said this, even when I was going through this, I said, look, I will gladly pay child support. Give me my kids. Child support is cheaper than $700,000 in 13 years in attorney's fees. So absolutely give me my kids. I'll pay child support 50-50, what, like a possession or whatever. Now, what you have to understand, if you go to jail, it's in the state's best interest that every dad go to jail, because they get paid $50 for every day you're sitting in jail. In a month, that's $1,500 that the state of Texas is getting in government funding for you sitting in jail. If you pay child support, and it's only, let's just say you pay $1,000 a month, that $1,000 goes to the state of Texas, goes to the mom. The state of Texas actually gets $660 for you paying that child support. They make more money, more than double, on you sitting in jail than they do you paying your child support. Don't go that route.
All right. I want to bring up something. Mr. Fernando Sidrus said they can't put us all in jail at once. So, dude.
You're right. They'll do it one at a time.
Well, can I get this out right now? I mean, we got, maybe 1,000 views when this gets done. You can go to some of these other channels and stuff like that. I mean, 10,000, 20,000 views. We're talking about something that affects millions. If we said right now, everybody stop paying child support, how many is actually going to do it? And guess what? Those are going to be the ones that end up going to jail. You say they wouldn't put us all in jail at once. Where is all of our guys standing together at once? It's not happening. In order to make any type of change, guys, we've got to get the awareness out and everybody to the table. That's when you could say many things like, look, we're not going to take it. We want to do this or we want to do that. And you can actually make a difference. Unfortunately, right now, the movement is not ready for it. If anything, I look back at it, Robert, we made a lot of connections when we was going across the country, and it wasn't all bad. There was a lot of good people that would like to see change, but they need the people to the table, ready to go in order to be able to do this, because they're fighting evil behind the scenes that you can only imagine. Our movement wasn't ready. Our guys are not ready for this. We don't have an army standing there, and it's going to take a lot more than showing up in the comments, guys. It's going to take a lot of organization and people coming together and getting that awareness out on a level that it's never been seen before. Yesterday was Martin Luther King's day. I want you to think about what he had to go through to do what he did. And in the end, he ended up losing his life. But he didn't go marching alone. He went marching with thousands, dude. Thousands. And now if you look back, his name is on streets in every city in the United States of America because he fought for what was right. But he went and gathered his people, and it made a statement. Dads, we've got to show up. There is we want the quick solution. We need to get it done now. Unfortunately, I think we all want the quick solution. It's going to take a lot of hard work, guys. And I'm going to tell you, the more that other people pitch in, the easier it becomes. If everybody does a little bit, that can get a lot. But right now, they know that you don't have this organized movement. So, unfortunately, right now, 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000 people stop paying child support. They can't put you all in jail. Yes, they will.
They'll do it in a second. Now, if you think about it, since you mentioned Martin Luther King, that was yesterday. So that was affecting the African community, right? The African American community. Now, if you think about it, child support, the family court system, that affects every race, creed. There is no gender bias there. So it's going to affect everybody, no matter what gender or what race you are. This affects more people than the Martin Luther King movement back then when was that, the 70s, 60s, 70s, somewhere around there, when that happened. But this affects more people, and it will not only affect you, it affects your kids, your grandkids, and everyone else, unless you stop it right now and you put some things in place that will eventually trickle down. But you have to get behind this community. You have to like and share all these posts. If you're not sharing this thing, then what good is your voice? Because you're not putting it out to your own public or your own friends and family and everybody else.
Well, I mean, think about this too. Martin Luther King was fighting for the equality for the black race. But when we look from his days, when they had that nuclear family that was so strong in the black community versus now, like around 3 to 4 out of 5 kids are without a dad in the home. Are they anywhere near equal? Martin Luther King's overall goal has not been accomplished yet. It has not. They have just thrown more fuel on the fire. It may seem that way, but look at what these dads are going through in that community. Why would they make legislation like Section 8 and watch these people get torn apart and not even mention it? That equality has not been received, but he was a man that fought for it, and he had thousands behind him. And that is the type of traction we're going to need here if we want to make a real difference. And I tell you what, guys, it's not saying Eric Carroll to go lead this charge. No, I'm just going to be a voice, and I'm going to get it out there. What we need, Robert, is we need hundreds of leaders that can do this, because you need as many hands on deck, because then what happens? They try to shut it down any way they can. And if they was to go after one person, you got another person that's carrying the flag. And that's what it's going to need. It's not going to go away peacefully. It's just not. We have got to get this message out, guys. And man, I start sounding like a preacher every time I do this. I don't mean to do that, guys, but I hope you can feel it. We're not dodging your questions. We're trying to tell you this. I've heard several people say, that's it. Just everybody stop paying child support. You have got to have that awareness out there, and you got to have a block of people doing this together, or it doesn't matter. Yes, they will. They're doing it already. There's thousands of people in jail for child support right now, and there's thousands of people that are going to lose their license today for being behind on it. Yes, they will.
Let me tell you something too. That just reminded me. Your license, if they take away, so the only way they can take away your license, and I've talked to the attorney generals, several attorney generals in different states about this. If you're behind on child support, and I'm not saying get behind on child support, if they issue a new order that says, hey, okay, you owe this much back child support, do not ignore that. You can call the attorney general's office and you can set up a payment plan. As long as you're paying even $10 a month towards that back child support, they cannot take your license and they cannot throw you in jail. But you have to stay current, and you have to pay something towards the back child support. If you do those two things, there is no attorney general that will throw you in jail that I know of. And if there is, you let me know and I'll call them myself and I'll talk to their office and see what's going on. But I guarantee you, if you just stay current on your child support and pay something towards the back child support, you will stay out of jail and keep your license.
We got a pretty powerful statement here from a mom, Miss Emily Harris. She said, moms would change if they were the dads. That's a pretty powerful statement, dude. If this was on the other hand, would they be saying that this is a fair system? I don't think so. I guess that's the whataboutisms, right? And some people will say, not, don't worry about those. It is true. Because if there is a different side that would get different consequences, then we're not at equality. Equality is just that, equality. Most of these guys are fighting for 50-50. They're not fighting for full custody. But I'm going to tell you, I've brought this up numerous times too. The moms, when they go through it, if there is an alienated mom, I'm going to tell you, this is going to be a little bit of a controversial one. You're looking at 82 or 80 to 82.5% as the national average. In Texas, we're looking at 93 to 94% of the time dad's not going to win custody. The little percentage of the time that moms are losing custody was probably for a damn good reason. Okay. But there are going to be those cases where she had, or her ex had the connection with the cops or something else like this, or he had a lot of money and he could get the custody. And if you're a mom that ends up going against one of these type of dads in the system, it's almost impossible for you because you weren't supposed to lose custody to a dad. That same narrative that is screwing the dads is now screwing you. And I will tell you, it is starting to swing back the other way a little bit because that national average was like 82.5%. Now it's down to 80. So we got a 2.5% difference. Whoop-de-doo. It's still completely lopsided. But if that continues to do that, the more these women say, I'm going to be a strong, independent woman, and then she starts making more money and it's more profitable for them to put you on child support and limit your time, you'll see how this feels and you'll wish you would have listened to us with this narrative that we're talking about right here, because they are starting to feel some of that pressure. And I just have to believe if it was a mom going through this, oh yeah, the laws would change quick. Let's be honest.
How can you be a smart, independent woman when you're needing child support from a man and yet you're a millionaire? I mean, you're really not that independent at all if you're needing help from a man that you're saying that you are.
Dude. And, look, there is going to be times where, the kids, they're going to need some support. I tell you, in my situation, I've been in the situation where I paid child support. I've been in the situation where I received child support. Did I ever take my ex and try to get like loads of money and say, I got to live off of this? Absolutely not, dude. I was a guy that was working 70 and 80 hours a week, getting every bit of overtime I could. But now I'm paying all these bills that was once being paid with 2 paydays. Now I'm finding out all this is breaking up, and then I got to pay for the divorce. I got to pay for all this. Did I feel bad that I needed half of the house payment? No, sir, I didn't, because I'd have lost everything I had if not. There's going to be times your kids are going to need to be supported. My problem isn't that people are having to support their kids. My problem is at the rate people are having to support their kids. These guys that are paying $2,000 and $3,000 a month, dude. I mean, we talked to the father, and you've met him in person. We called him Bob on the podcast the other day. $300,000 a year, and then he ended up bringing home $25 a paycheck. Could you imagine making that type of money and you're only bringing home $25 on your paycheck? Why even go to work, man? Because the only reason you're going to work is to turn around and give that money to your ex. It's living off of it and keeping your kids away from you. It's not enough that he's given her everything he's got and lost the house and having to pay for her attorneys and everything, but he's not even getting to see the kids.
Yep.
But every other weekend, he's still a visitor. Because we got to free up his time so he can go to work and pay this. Like these attorneys and judges, they are laughing all the way to the bank on this. At what point did we give them that type of power to think stuff like this is okay? But they'll tell you, man, it's based upon a percentage of the father's paycheck or the parent's paycheck.
It's a special kind of help for that person.
Well, so in there, here was a father that he got like an every other year bonus. It was a one-time bonus that inflated his pay almost $100,000. But they went back and said, that's your potential. And then that's what they base it off of. They don't base it upon your average weekly salary. This is what it's going off of. Let's see, what's the maximum that they can pay, because they need that system. Dude, when Dwayne Ward, guys, if you go and check out Pissed Off Parent, he's got down in there the Title 4D incentives, the bonuses that each of these states are getting from collecting this child support. Whoa. You wouldn't be shocked if you saw how much Texas was bringing in, but dude, it is a lot of money. And that's because they got to hit these quotas. They make money off of making sure you pay. So if you're not paying, we're going to take your license away. We're going to put you in jail. And then while you're in jail, that child support is going to keep racking up on you because we've got to keep this thing going. It's how we make our money. And when you've got a country that is trillions of dollars in debt, I think we're close to $30 trillion in debt now. Any money that we take away from that government that they have using and they built their system off of, they ain't going to let that go away easy. This is money that government employees are being paid, guys, and that are making bonuses off of making sure your families break up and that you don't see your kids.
Yeah.
Think about that. Is there more of an evil plan out there, Robert? I don't think so.
No. Nope. And you're having to do it. You know, it's just people aren't doing the math. Dwayne just posted something in here just a minute ago about, you know, you pay 20% for one kid, 25 for another, or, you know, for two. And then you put medical and dental on top of that. It gets closer to 40 to 45% of your income, right? But then if you think about it, that's after taxes. Taxes, if you're in a 30% tax bracket, there goes 30% before you're having to pay your 40 to 45%. Then you go to the store and you spend another 8.5% in Texas on anything you buy. Where's your money go? It's going to taxes, child support, and it's going to the government in every way that you can think possible. Fast.
You guys want to take it in a completely different angle, in a different situation. This is how the rabbit holes happen. Every time we talk, we're like, oh, I can go somewhere like this. And I was just reading this comment. I haven't seen him in here before. Guys, everybody, welcome Justin Decker and all of the other people, Ricardo Cray and Harrison Spencer. Welcome all these guys to the Dad Talk. I've been seeing you show up. Please, guys, show up on every broadcast and bring your friends so we can keep this going. But he said, Dad Talk today. I don't know if she told the kids, but at one point she referenced my girlfriend as a witch, like a real witch. LOL. She had dressed like one for Halloween. What kind of shade gets thrown towards the new woman?
Can you imagine if his ex took a picture she posted on social media for Halloween and said, look, here's your stepmom. She's really a witch. I found a picture of her. Like, you know, to a 3-year-old, they really don't know the difference. But if she, you know, I just thought about that as a mental thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Dad Talk today. Peace is priceless. I love hearing happy endings. Guys, at the end of the day, what are you wanting more than anything? If you've been through this, when we're younger, some of the drama and stuff like that, it's a little bit easier to get into. And then you realize, I don't want this. And if you get out of it and you get out of that divorce, you just want your kids and you just want peace. Just give me a normal life. I'll go work every day. I'll pay my bills and I want to be with my kids. I want a person that I love, and let's just make it a happy ending. So we will do everything we can to get away from this conflict. But when you was younger and you got yourself into that conflict, that's not conflict that just goes away. It's going to stay for the next 18 years. It's probably even going to go a lot longer than that. That conflict is here. But guys want to disengage and say, I'm just not going to do it anymore. It doesn't go away. You can't change how they're going to act, but you can change the way you react. All I can tell you is don't play their games. But again, there's so many different ways you could go, Robert. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I wish I had the honest, true answers, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys I do, or that I got an instruction manual of how you can do it. Come here. I'm going to be a life coach. I'm going to tell you how to do. There's not that there. And that's why I keep going back to that. Show up. Let's go in here and let's tear that narrative down, because in many ways it's a trap. It is. It is just one big trap. And until we do that, this is what we've got. But speak a little bit about that. I'm sure Catalina would have something to say on that. Was she ever called a witch?
She was called so many things. We got allegations that we weren't even married. I had to end up showing my marriage certificate at one point because that was a point of their contention. And then as soon as I did, it stopped it. But until we got in there, I mean, they were filing all kinds of stuff. She got called, accused. It's just endless. One day I'll have her on here and let her say some of the stuff she has to say. But I do have some advice for people. It just came to my mind while you're watching this. If you're going through this, have cameras. If you're worried about false allegations or whatever, you can go to Sam's Club. The wireless ones are about $300. You can put them all over your house. At least you have cameras. Don't put them in the bathrooms. Don't put them in the kids' rooms, just the main rooms to and out of, the child's room, but never in the child's room. That would protect you. A lot of things, taking someone to the custody drop-offs and pickups, that helps a lot, or recording them if you don't have someone. If you want more time with your kid, go to the schools. Even if it's on their time, go to their extracurricular activities. You can volunteer at the school. They cannot stop you. And let me tell you something, if they have exclusive school rights, it means nothing but that they have the chance to pick the school. They can't tell you when and where to show up for school.
Dude, we got something in here from Dad Talk Today on Facebook. I woman bash, LOLSB. That's Shirley. Dude, it's been like for the past couple of months, she's been helping me with the memes and stuff so that I can do the podcast and do what I'm doing here. But these women are going crazy. And Eric, you're just a women basher. I'm like, I'm not posting it. That's a woman. You think we're bad. But when you get one of these women of equality in here, we're talking about these stepmoms and people that see what's going on. They don't play around. They don't play around. Did you think that I was just going to sit there and take incoming fire? You're talking to females. That's the ones running my page. But they are fierce father's rights people, man. Tell everybody a little bit about Shirley there, Robert.
Oh, my gosh. I don't even know if there's words to describe her. She's a fireball, that's for sure.
Fireball for sure.
Yeah, we go to some of these things and she is just on it. If you think, it's called Dad Talk Today, but more than likely, if your comments are being sorted through by, a female,
yep.
She's answering the phones. She's going through like some of these voicemails and stuff like that. So if you think that if Eric or I are going to hear anything, usually it's filtered by Shirley. And anyway.
She don't like Shirley, but no, dude, it's cool because we had to get help, man. And like, I'll tell you, like the two ladies I got on here, one of them's my mom. She's actually helping, but they're completely tapped out, dude. We got them going full time and we need more people. But there is so many different women that back this movement, and you don't have to change what you say for them. Sometimes if you let them talk, it's even worse because they're just going to call it out for what it is. Don't tell me I'm woman bashing, and I am a woman, right? Yeah. And so there is a lot of these female advocates in here, guys, that I'm telling you, they're more fierce supporters than you could ever imagine. And we need them in here. Don't let the feminists that make their way inside these groups and try to shut you up think that we don't have those type in here, because without them, we wouldn't get half the stuff done that we do. So it was a little way of saying, be careful about using that tactic on the page because you're talking to another female.
they filter our stuff, but then when you get their response, it's probably unfiltered. So be careful.
Yeah, Sabrina said, I've never felt like these men have ever bashed women. Telling truth, yes. Telling the perspective and experience, and all the time, but never woman haters. Love these guys. Dude, we love women. We're all married men. It was just some of the stuff that we went through. And even now, Robert, if I could get along with my ex and just let me see my kid, tell me what they need and everything, let me have my time, keep the communication to what time and where, dude, I would love nothing more. I would love nothing more. I don't want to talk about all that crap anymore. Remember when we talk about men just want peace? It's all we want. But in order for me to get something, I got to go through the courts. I got to go through all this, and you got to put all those obstacles. And if I don't do that, somehow I'm a bad dad. Why aren't we looking back at these women and saying, why don't you just let them see their kid? You want him to give that money to attorneys and judges that he could be spending on the family and kids? That shows the motive right there. That's the part about the narrative that just pisses me off so bad, dude.
Yeah.
You could do this. If you can come together and make a child, you can come together and parent a child. Get the petty things out of here. And I have to believe a lot of these guys would really like to do that, but it's just not a system that's set up to do it that way.
Yep.
I'm going through the comment. Dude, we got a lot of comments today, and I am not surprised one bit whatsoever. I knew we would. Wanda Beth said, one of our pastors has a court order saying that he is not allowed to bring his boys to church where he ministers and is at on weekends. So through the holiday visitations, he missed church 5 out of 6 weekends. Senior leadership decided to lay him off until he can get back to keeping a better work schedule. Now my concern is if he loses that income, will he be required to pay child support based on that income? The court has him to child support on a job that the court has ordered, and then it cut off. Wanda, this is one thing I'd really like to ask, and I want you to be honest with me because we don't know what gentleman you're talking about. All you say is one of our pastors. How is the church helping instead of telling him that he needs to do more or to show up? What is the church doing to provide relief in that situation? This is where I have problems with the churches. They want the people to come to it and put into the offering plate and to become members of the church. But when one of your flock says, hey, church, I need help, and I want to go to the church because you know where my heart is, you know where my passions are, where are these pastors in this time of need? Where are the people behind him?
Yep.
And you know what? If he had the people behind him, it might look a little bit different, Robert. But I have to say, it seems like many times there's no relief to be found. There's nobody to support.
If the church is praying to the father and they can't even support a father protecting his child, then what are they even doing?
That's it, man. That's it. Mr. Morgan on YouTube. Good to see you this morning, Morgan. 2 days after Christmas, I went out to see my daughter and grandson to give them some money. Ex-wife unexpectedly comes home with her new husbands and calls the police on me.
Venmo, PayPal. I mean, there's other ways, but I don't know. I mean, if you know that she's that vindictive, I mean, I see my ex constantly at extracurricular activities and everything else. I know there's really nothing to say, you know? So it's like, don't poke the bear. I don't know, but it sucks. You know, Jeff is probably one of the nicest people that you could ever meet and passionate about this movement and everything else. But, you know, when you're with the wrong person and they have a vendetta against you, there's nothing good that you're going to do that they're going to see as good. It's always going to have different motives, different whatever. And I don't know, you lose just for trying to do something nice.
Dude, it's everything. If you get a car because you got to go to work, you should have bought a crappier car because that's money you should have put into the attorneys and the judges. If you buy McDonald's because you're on your lunch break and you need food to sustain yourself, you should have ate ramen noodles. Even if you ate ramen noodles, you're spending too much money that you're not paying over here. Every little thing that you do, anything that you post on social media, dude, the exes that sit there and stay on your profile, getting every picture and creating the stories about what you're doing. I can honestly say I've never been on one of my ex's pages since I broke up. I don't want to look at it. I got no desire for it, but they are looking for everything they can.
Nope. I bet they're watching this right now. They're watching us.
Oh, I know. You want to make a Snapchat
stuff? There's nothing.
Dude, if that name even gets brought up, the hair on the back of my neck stands up. I don't want to get nowhere around it. I would love to see my kid, but I can't get around that. I just can't. But again, they will... the conflict doesn't go away, guys. We said that earlier. The conflict doesn't go away. Sometimes you got to do things for self-preservation. Fernando Satiris on Facebook said, I myself, since we left each other, she brought it in my uncle into their home with her family, not know that he would do dirty things to me as a kid. I told her shortly after, and still till this day, she with him, I called Department of Children and Family Services, made a report, and now I'm not sitting around waiting on an answer and still noting this world is messed up. I'm trying to, next day we left each other, she brought my uncle into their home.
I think maybe her uncle was doing things to him as a kid or something.
That would explain it. That's probably.
And now she's putting the uncle in the house with his kid. So he's trying to protect him.
I knew of a woman and a father that had kids, and they told about all the things that this one man did when they was younger to them as a kid. It was the grandpa. And when he would go out of town for work, they would leave the child with him. Guess what happened? Like, what? in the world if you know somebody's got that in their past and they've done this, especially the people that it was done to. Why would you trust your kids with that?
Yeah.
This is some of the stuff you just can't make sense of, guys. I don't even know really what to say. And if that was what was going on, brother,
You know
I'm
what?
so sorry.
All I can tell you is keep calling CPS on her, because she's putting the child in danger, and let them deal with it. And as a parent, that's all you can do. Unfortunately, you know, you don't have exclusive rights or, you know, anything like that you can fight that with. But if you think this is going on, all you can do is report it and let the chips fall where they may.
Dude, so C there on YouTube said, I don't understand that if you go to jail part, why would they put you in jail? Now, dude, we are way behind on the comments, and that just let me know how many came in today. I think he's talking about when we was saying, if you don't pay your child support, will they put you in jail? They will put you in jail.
Yeah.
They will put you in jail. First, they're going to take your license, because that's one way of scaring you. You better go and get that money, or you're not going to be able to drive anywhere. And then if you keep getting behind, they will put you in jail. And guess what happens while you're in jail? It just keeps adding up. And then when you do go and get a job, or you try to get anything, any little money that comes in, we're going to take that away from you. We're not going to allow you to do anything. I knew a dad, Dr. Carlos Rivera. I talked to him years ago on the show. This was a guy that was a doctor. Okay. He goes through a divorce, had his own clinic and everything, very well respected in his area. He starts having to pay all the bills and stuff for the ex that she's living in the house. He said the whole time they was married, Robert, talking about petty things, their water bill was like $50 a month. Okay. This was in the state of New York, I do believe. Once he started going through the divorce and he was having to pay for her bills, all of a sudden the water bill ended up being $500 a month. The power bill completely skyrocketed and everything. They went and put this guy on a child support, way more money than he was actually bringing in. He ended up getting like $500,000 in arrears. And now they take this doctor that went to school for all those years, created this business, was a productive member of society. They put him in prison for failure to pay child support. While he's in there, he wanted a pair of underwear. His girlfriend, one of the stepmoms that saw what he was going through and loved him and wanted to be there, she sent $100 for him to put on his card so he could get something while he was in there. Child support enforcement took that $100, dude. And here is this doctor that went through all this telling me, Eric, the first pair of underwear I got in jail or in prison came from a crackhead. It was a dirty pair of underwear that he gave to me because they would take everything that would come in. Here was this guy in prison, and they're taking every little bit that you got to sit there in those walls. You can't have nothing. You can't even have your job. The guy can't even be a doctor anymore because of this. Will they put you in jail? Yes, absolutely. No matter how much money you got.
Yep.
They did that to a doctor. They will do it to you in a heartbeat, because if it happens, what happens? You go to social media. This is what they did to me. It's so wrong, dude. They sweep those cases under the rug so easily. And because of that narrative of the deadbeat dad, nothing is listened to, man.
Yep.
That's why I say, dude, once we get our people in here and they're echoing enough of the BS, because it's not just on somebody on here. Everything, dude, one of the biggest things that we get all the time, Robert, and you know you've seen it, especially since you've been in there in the support group, you'll get the people that says, I've got the craziest story you've ever heard, and it's going to change family law. There is no one story out there that is going to change family law. And then you think your story is crazy until you hear everybody else's. And that's just what it is, guys. And then even if you do have that crazy story, you're sitting there saying, this is what happened. It's just your one story. They're not going to change the law for millions off of your one story. But when you got the millions standing there and saying, it's all of our stories, it's our families, I want you to see how that's looked at in a different light.
We have to band together.
You have to band together, guys. But that's what I'm saying. Like, just telling everybody right now, stop paying child support. I don't want to see you in jail. Because guess what? If you're in jail and you can't like, share, and subscribe, and you can't show up here, it does this no good. It does this movement no good, man.
And we are not going to report on it either. If you did that, then you're violating your court agreement and your obligation, which it should have never been, right? You should have 50-50 custody. We understand that. But if you're going to stand up, you need to go to your legislators, your state representatives. You need to be on here liking and sharing this. That is where you can make a difference. Not paying your child support is definitely not anything that you're going to do to make a difference. They don't care, and they're going to make more money with you in jail. They rather you do that anyway.
Well,
so don't do that.
And I'm going to tell you, state representatives and all these legislative efforts, guys, if we could put that on pause, and because look, it's going to be needed. But before we get everybody to the table, what good is it doing us? I have seen all of the efforts going into these places, and it is a big system. Dude, just down there in Texas alone, that Texas Family Law Foundation, they're powerful, man. They dropped $3.5 million, not the Texas Family Law Foundation, but the Republican Party dropped $3.5 million into two opponents versus two Republican family law guys that was running to do this system. They dropped $3.5 million like that. Didn't even blink. That's the kind of money they've got to keep this system going like it is. Most of the time, we're dead broke dads, not deadbeat dads, and we don't have the money to fight that kind of system. But when they can pay all this money and have their name on every billboard and every street, a lot of times people vote for the name that they recognize. The ones that are doing the right thing, that aren't getting the corporate money, that aren't getting the special interest, they get forgotten about, right? And Jeff Younger was one of those dudes that had mass media. He had a lot of media behind it, and it's still, they just dropped that couple millions of dollars down and keep them out of here.
Gone.
What point in time
now his ex can move to California and transition their kid.
We got to do stuff different, man. We've got to do stuff different, breathe life back into this movement. We're not saying that we agree with any of that, because if you would even think that and you're watching this show, that's ridiculous. At the same time, we're saying do something different. If you keep doing the same things, you're going to keep getting what you've always got.
We have to change the laws. And the only thing to change the laws is you have to band together. We have to educate each other on why they do this, what the rules are, and why you're having to pay child support in the first place.
Dude, and just got to touch on it. Nathan Petzer, he said, bring in the adoption community. It's similar to divorce cultures, functions under the same system. Dude, there is incentives for kids that are taken from the system and then readopted back out. There's money. And dude, that's just it. Like, we could keep going down the rabbit holes. But can you imagine if we had the resources to go into each one of these subjects, break it down, show you one by one how it's happening? Because that's really the vision. That's what I would love to see happen. The podcast is secondary right now. I'm using this to get everybody here, but we've got to get some of that other media going and make the public aware of what's happening. And that's not just going to go by you showing up and saying, here's the statistics, here's this, here's this, here's this. You're going to emotionally vomit on people, and they're not going to listen. Yeah. There is strategy behind this. I'm telling you, man, 2023, I've said it before. I've said it several times this year. It feels different. I feel like we've got some stuff going on. Hakuna Matata, keep up the good work, Dad Talk today. Watch him from afar. Where are you watching from? I guess he's in the jungle, the mighty jungle, where the lion sleeps tonight.
He's only showing his shadow. That's funny.
Hakuna Matata. Anyway, man, we've been going for a while. Guys, I hope you enjoyed what you've seen, and we are just going to continue getting this out every way we can. Thank you so much for showing up. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and all of that stuff. I'm trying to get through all these comments, dude. Holy crap.
Stay strong. We're fighting for you. We help you. Come in the support group. If you're going through any of this stuff, post in there. We'll post, and there's a bunch of advocates in there that will, advise you on what to do next. If you're going through whatever, whether you're pro se, have an attorney, whatever. I can't tell you. I've talked to several attorneys last week to educate them on how to fight false allegations in the system that they're fighting in and for their client. I'm not an attorney. I've been through this, but I can help your attorney that doesn't usually fight these types of cases, kind of navigate him through what he should say, or don't go down a rabbit hole or anything like that. So,
but wait, we're not done. I found a few more comments.
All right.
I'm going to get down to this. Shadrach said the politicians are mostly attorneys and in on the extortion racket. That's, dude, We know that. We know that. And again, but there is people in this movement. We went and tried to do it too, that think going to these people are where the answer's at. Imagine an abused person going to their abuser and saying, I don't like what you're doing to me, and it's morally wrong. Will you stop it? No, they have to get out of there. And that's what we're doing in this political game.
Yeah.
It just
okay,
is,
Eric.
man.
Okay, Robert. You called me out. You're right. We should stop this. They're gonna be like, no, we're making money on this. This is supporting my family. What are you talking about?
Very well-oiled machine. They know what's going on. Ryan Walter there on YouTube said, I have these guys in administrative hearings now, and I've already moved for judicial review in district court for bias. I'm taking this to the Supreme Court to destroy this system. Yesterday, I was on a Zoom call with Carnell Smith, listening to when he went up to the Supreme Court, and his appeal got denied a few times, but he just kept on in there, dude. And every time that he thought, well, I've done everything I could do, he did it again. And then he finally pushed on in there and then went to 11 different states, guys, and got legislation passed. I want to tell you, that's probably one of the smartest men I've ever met in my life. And I love it when he's on the show because he's a smooth talker too. But if we had guys like that training more of our guys, there is no limit to what this movement can do. Because even though it is corrupt, it is biased, and he admits that himself, there is ways that you can do this thing and strategy, guys. And some of that you got to keep under wraps. But I would love to say, dude, that day job that you're working right now, I want you to leave it. Here, this takes care of your family. I want you to get out here and train these guys to do what they've got to do. 11 different states that he protected. I want you to think about that paternity fraud, guys. If you find out that the kid was never yours, they want you to still continue paying child support. You might even end up paying child support to the bio father after you find out you weren't the dad. That was the kind of crap that was going on. Carnell, they said, you got to continue paying child support for a kid that wasn't yours. This man went and overturned that in 11 different states to the point that the judge that ruled against him came back and said, I am sorry. I was wrong. Now, how often have you had somebody come on this show that says the judge came to me and said I was wrong and I apologize? That just don't happen.
After we do 11 states, they better apologize. I'm waiting for mine too.
Yep. Patrick Warnick there on Facebook said, with regard to the church, I'm in Texas and have been to the 3 largest Baptist churches in my town and spoken directly to their lead pastors about 50-50 custody, Title 4D, and the lack of support the church provides single dads and men in general after divorce. None of those churches have done anything to address the issue. Heck, none of these church leaders even heard of Title 4D or understood how the child support system works, or even understood the standard protection order and how it limits men and it cut off. Let me say something, Patrick. For people that aren't really aware of this, if you go straight into there and start talking about Title 4D and all this other stuff, you're going to lose them. There is ways to start this conversation and get them asking organic questions so that it shows genuine interest in what you're trying to say. However, I would like to present to you something different. And this is the stuff that I learned from Carnell. Carnell said he learned from Martin Luther King. Tell the story through their eyes. Make them go through that journey in their head and see it for themselves. But not just that. We can't go to people and say, here's Title 4D, here's Section 8, here's all the things that goes on. What are you going to do about it? Present them with a solution. Present them with something that they can do, and make sure that you're being realistic with it. Hey, man, could we have a men's group, support group, where we all get together at the church one day a week or every other week for people that have been through divorce, family law issues, and just talk to each other where we could vent? There's a start. And then as you get more and more people in there that are talking and they're confiding in each other and they see there is a need for this, then you say, hey, I've got another solution for you. Would you mind doing this? Hey, if I go and hold fundraisers for the church and we do this and we raise money, would you mind making this service? Go in there with some solutions and don't just try to tell them everything that's wrong with the system. Look, dude, we've been going for 2 hours and 10 minutes now, and that's been about the average on every podcast for the past month. And I never get out even a percentage of what's going on with this system, and people get lost in it.
Yep.
They do get lost in it. especially pastors and stuff like that. And let me tell you, it's easy to crap on the pastor sometimes, but my dad was a pastor, so I saw what he went through. He had the whole church coming to him with issues. Somebody died, or there's a family that's breaking up. Somebody doesn't have food. They need help. Somebody's sick. I've seen it all. And so they've got all these different things coming at them. But if you could go in there and give them a precise thing, learn, guys, I cannot stress this to you enough. Learn how to condense your story down into 2 or 3 minutes, an elevator pitch. Not even 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1.5 to 2 minutes. Learn how to condense your story down. You might say, "Oh, I've got all kinds of stuff that ain't going to be included in that." That's okay. Let them ask you questions about it, and then that gets you to continue speaking about it. But if you just go and blah, and then they're not listening to anything that you're saying, you did it all for nothing. You want them interested in what you've got to say. 1.5 to 2 minutes. To where you can tell people what's going on, because when you get in touch with some of these people, that might be all the time you got. And if you're respectful of their time, they'll know I can talk to them, bring the solutions, get the story condensed down. And we really need to teach our guys to do that. But they also need the place, Robert, which is what the support group is supposed to be, to say, blah, I got to let it all out. I got to get it out. Guys, sometimes, like, man, I ain't too proud to admit this. You know how many times I've had to sit in front of the mirror and, Eric, let me tell you something. Like, I'm going to sit there and tell my whole story just because I needed to get it out. I needed to get it out, but I didn't want to do that with a legislator. I didn't want to do that with you guys because I don't know, but I did need to get it out, and I can trust myself in just being able to speak it out and let it out. There was a release there, and every time that you do it, you get better. Yep. Learn, condense those stories down, go in there with solutions. Same thing here. I have no shortage of people that are going to be in the comments or that are going to be in my messages. Eric, you need to do this, 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 and this. Do you know how often I have people that show up saying, this is what you need to do, and this is the solution and the resources to do it with? You know, we would add on a lot more if they came in here and said, here's the money and the crew and the ways to do it. They come with the ideas. And not saying that ideas aren't a bad thing, but you got to have the solution behind it that goes with it.
If we had a couple of $1 million, I'm telling you right now, Dad Talk Today could make a huge dent. It would just make a crater in this. A crater. You're going through false allegations, you're going through family court, all that stuff. If we had those kind of resources or funding that everybody else had, we could obliviate this thing within 2 years. Huge crater. But we don't have that type of funding, and we know everybody that's in here has already spent all their money, but all we can do is educate you on what to do, how to do it, get out of court faster, what people are going through. It's not personal, all kinds of stuff. But if we had the funding they had, we would not be going through this. There's no possible way.
Wanda Best followed up on that. She said, I went to a mega church here in the DFW area that started offering help to the divorced families. It grew so big that the leadership then decided that all families needed to be included. It fell apart within 2 months. They missed the idea that divorced families need help, different help from nuclear families. The people that, and so that's another thing that, you know, I'll go back to what Patrick was saying earlier. If you tell them that this is this and you want them to lead something and they don't know what you do, they might end up thinking that they're just going to make this right here and it's not ever going to exist. Men need a space to talk to other men that have been through this. They need that space to say, man, I'm having it rough, dude. I'm having it rough. And just to hear, man, I care about you. I've been through that too. You know, if you ever need somebody to talk to, they need that place that where they can talk and feel like they're not going to be judged, that it's not going to be used against them, because too often it is. And they're being judged. Again, most of you guys are guilty before you even step foot inside of the courtrooms. And you're justified in feeling that way because that's what it is. A lot of times you are judged before you even go inside of that courtroom. And we know this. But then they try to include everybody that doesn't know the circumstances that these guys are facing. And as Wanda said, it broke apart. Because what gets in there? The drama, the different things. You know what I would guarantee you starts happening, Robert? The people that show up in there, just like everywhere else that we talk about this, There are some dads that don't need to be with their kids. There's deadbeats out there. There's a lot of them that don't need to be there. And that is the general consensus from the population right now with that narrative. And it's hard to overcome it, man. It's hard to overcome it. This guy could sit there and tell you all the challenges in the world, things that his ex has done, but he's a dad. He's there's these dads. There's a deadbeat dad. Why do you keep bringing that up? And I mean, it hurts me even more when we hear it from other dads that claim to be good dads. The first time that a dad's mentioned, there are a lot of, because he wants to feel like I'm different. I'm different than those guys because I actually do what I'm supposed to. I'm Mighty Mouse. I can save the day. These are just a bunch of dads that don't. I'm a special man. The hell you are, man. Get rid of the damn ego. Anyway, that's going to be about it. So, wow. There was a lot of comments that I didn't get to, guys, but I tried to get to the ones that we could. I appreciated this conversation so much. The petty things that moms do. We ended up going all over the place with it.
You know what was surprising is that a lot of dads actually came up with the petty things or the little things that they did. And I commend them for that. Like instead of, and think about this. I mean, these are the men that, we're giving them a chance to sit there and voice the stuff that that things have been done to them. And they come back with, you know what? With no prompting or anything, here's the things that I've done. That shows you what kind of dads and why they're in here and they're fighting for their children. They're taking responsibility. They're, like I said, with just petty things that moms do, and they come in here and speak about stuff that they do themselves. That's commendable. That they would even not go there, that they went the other direction.
So when you own your own faults and you realize that this, I play a part in this too. Here's my part. I'm not afraid to show it. Then that shows that you are willing to negotiate. You are willing to compromise and say, hey, let's fix this. Unfortunately, that also helps show that there's one side that can never tell you anything that they did wrong. And there is no working with that. People just say you need to try. You can try all you want. You're a dead end. It's a dead end, guys.
There is no road past here. Yeah.
The more that we can go in there and show our own faults, I think it's going to be the most part. Let's say the Johnny Depp case, for instance. Did Johnny go in there claiming to be a saint? No.
Nope.
He said, I drank a glass of wine. They tried to make it a mega pint. But no, he said, I drank a glass of wine. Yeah, sure I did. Yes, I did ecstasy. Yes, I did some of these things. No, I'm not proud of it, but this is what I did, and I owned up to it. And I think even though some of those things weren't good, everybody found respect for Johnny because he didn't hide from his own BS. Now, when it came to Amber, always looking at the jury, trying to convince them and playing the victim, she never could admit to anything that she did wrong. She just couldn't do it. And it was very easy for everybody to step back and see what was going on there. Don't be afraid to say this was my part, but I am still a good dad. None of this ever needed to happen. And then that shows people I'm willing to own my part, but I got somebody over here that can never do that.
Yeah.
And they can't do it, man. They can't do it. So
you got to go into court and say, look, our children deserve both of us equally. And by us arguing and fighting and protective orders, restraining orders, none of this does our children any good. Our children deserve time with both of us, and, and then make your pleading or whatever it is. But I think if you go in there instead of slinging mud and she's this, she's that, she's blah, 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 because then she's going to do it. It's two kids fighting and arguing. If you think about two kids coming to you with a problem, well, he hit me, well, she hit me, she this, she that. Finally, you're going to get tired of hearing both of them argue, and you're going to send both of them to their room, right? That's basically what the family court does. So if you go in there sensibly and say, look, she's over there slinging mud at you, and then it's your turn to speak, and you say, look, Judge, our children need both of us equally. Statistics show that, it puts them at risk. Anything less than 50-50, those numbers start putting them at risk for alcoholism, for education, for arrest, everything, teen pregnancy,
yeah,
all these things, everything. So why would you put Why would you give one of us more custody than the other when anything that offsets that is going to put our children at risk? If
Because
anything,
masculinity is toxic, Robert.
yeah. Well, if anything, educate the court that if they do that, then the court's actually sentencing to these children to be at risk with anything less than 50-50. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. But
They don't listen. I hate to say it. They don't, man.
they'd
And
rather
yes,
listen to that than she's blah blah blah. She doesn't let me phone call my kid. She did it. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I understand you got to keep the emotion out of it, but just seeing the guys that had like knocked out. I mean, even the Depp case, dude. The first case he lost.
yeah,
He lost. We're not finding reason inside of this place. And again, toxic masculinity. If masculinity was toxic, would the fatherless statistics be what they are?
no.
Those kids are going through that because they don't have masculinity. Anyway, we can end up going, and I know we got a lot of people probably got to get back to work. I want to bring up this last comment. Father X said, my ex was Amber Heard before Amber Heard was Amber Heard. Guess what? I heard that. I think a lot of us did. All right, guys, I hope you appreciated the conversation today. Do me a favor. I'm going to run through it one more time. Like, share, and subscribe one time before we leave out of here. Leave a comment. Tell us how we did. Do you think we did okay? Would you like to hear some more of these conversations? Many ways that you can support this podcast right down here. I never know which way my finger is going to go when I do that. There we go. All right, Dad Talk Today, no spaces, Cash App, Venmo, Patreon. There's also super chats and memberships over there on YouTube, and there are stars and memberships over on Facebook. Make sure to get your mugs, man. You haven't got yours yet, have you, Robert? So I got the coffee. He's always got to go get the Coca-Cola. Was that from Sonnet?
I actually put it in this cup because I didn't want to do branding. So I was like, But I need Dad Talk Today mug so I can be like, hey.
There we go, man. All right, guys, we love you so much. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm not too sure what the conversation is going to be yet, but you're watching out. You could have got your voicemails in. When we ask for those voicemails, get them in because I try to get them before the show so we can play them. But until then, love you very much. Stay cool, stay dad, and we'll see you next time.
Talk to you.
Hey everybody, Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. Like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also super chats, patreon.com/dadtalktoday, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being